Hare Krishna, welcome to this episode of Chaitanya Charitamrita. We are renewing this Chaitanya Charitamrita classes, reviving. After a long period of time, 3 months back was the last class, and before that also there was a lot of break. But anyway, we are back now. So today's topic is we are reading from the Ādi Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, text 23 onwards, Lord Chaitanya's marriage and his intellectual conquests. We might also go into the 16th chapter because the 15th chapter is going to be finished after just a few verses, and then we'll go over to the 16th chapter as well. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So we will be studying from Ādi Lila, chapter 15, text 23 onwards. So here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the previous verse it is said that, we studied this at length in the previous session, that we cannot understand the Lord's activities and the devotees' activities. And therefore, we cannot simply comment without knowing. Right, so the next verse. Kato dino rahi mishra gela paraloka, mata putra duhara badila hridi shoka. After some days, Jagannath Mishra passed away from this world to the transcendental world, and both mother and son were very much aggrieved in their hearts. बंधु बांधव आशे दुहा प्रबोधिला बंधु बांधव आशे दुहा प्रबोधिला पितृक्रिया विधि मते ईश्वर करिला. So this is talking about Jagannath Mishra, Sachimata and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Jagannath Mishra passed away, and in this verse, friends and relatives came there to pacify Lord Chaitanya and his mother. Then Lord Chaitanya, even though he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, executed the rituals for his dead father according to the Vedic system. So, there was actually no need for even a devotee to perform all these rituals, because just by serving Krishna, he is already serving his father, forefathers, and devatas, rishis, everybody. Because we are, I just came back from India because my father passed away, and we did also the rituals according to the Vedic system. Of course, a lot of adjustments in the rituals as well. Um, according to the Smartha Vidhi, because see, family, they are coming from that. So we went and did that. But throughout the ceremonies, the rituals, um, I and my brother, we were chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, because that is the real um, ritual. That is the real thing. The essence of all rituals is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yajnanam Japa Yajñosmi. Yajnanam Japa Yajñosmi. That means of all the yajnas or sacrifices, I am the chanting of the holy name. Okay? So this is actually the ultimate ritual. All the rituals are meant for us to come to this point. And to highlight this even more, um, what is that verse? Yes, this is the one. Ādi 3.79. Purport, this Vedic scriptures, I mean, this verse is there. Gokotidanam grahane khagasya prayaga gangodaka kalpavasah yajñāyutam meru suvarnadanam govinda kirterna samam shatamshaihi. Even if one distributes 10 million cows in charity during an eclipse of the sun, lives at the confluence of the Ganga and Yamuna for millions of years, or gives a mountain of gold in sacrifice to the Brahmanas, he does not earn 100th part of the merit derived from chanting Hare Krishna. So, this is the best thing we can do, right? Um, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did all the rituals for his father's passing away, but Srimad Bhagavatam says in this way. देवर्षि भूताप्तनृणां पितॄणां न किङ्करो नायं वृणी च राजन् सर्वात्मना यः शरणं शरण्यं गतो मुकुन्दं परिहृत्य कर्तम्. O king, one who has given up all material beauties and has taken full shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, who offers shelter to all, is not indebted to the demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even one's forefathers who have passed away. Since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one who has surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. So, if this is the case, then why did Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, do those rituals for his father? On my question. So he is in a society where these things are conducted, and it is not that these are some bogus rituals. No, these are there in the Karmakanda section. These are there, and for the general population, they should follow these things. Um, a devotee is not indebted to do these things, but he may perform it anyway, um, even if it is just to satisfy the family members and the uh, society in general, because um, the devotee knows that the real thing that will benefit his father is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And I was personally there, doing this Pitra Karma, the 10 days and the 11 days, um, all those rituals. The 12th day also there is a ritual. And then every month for the first year, every month there will be rituals. And then every year once. So I was there in the first 10 days, 11th day, and all that. So all the mantras that the Purohit, the priest was chanting, it is pointing to the same thing, that the prasad of Vishnu is being offered to the devatas. Sorry, not devatas. In this case, it's the Pitra, the departed soul, to save him from downfall into hell, suffering from in hell. So that is automatically performed by the devotee when he is not only during those 10 days, but throughout his life, if he is offering Krishna not only food but also in every single way. If one is serving Krishna, then automatically the father is benefited. Not only the father, generations and generations are benefited. Narsimadev says that to Prahlad Maharaj because on this verse also many times. 7, 10, 18 of Srimad Bhagavatam. श्री भगवानुवाच त्रिसप्तभिः पिता पूतः पितृभिः सह तेन घा यत्साधोस्य कुले जातो भवान् वै कुलपावनः. Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narsimadev said, My dear Prahlad, O most pure, O great saintly person, your father has been purified along with 21 forefathers in your family. Because you were born in this family, the entire dynasty has been purified. See another one. Viprad Vishad Guna Yutadaravindanabha Padaravinda Vimukha Swapacham Varishtham Manye Tadarupita Mano Vachane Hitartha Pranam Punati Sakulam Natu Bhurimanaham. If a Brahmana has all 12 of the Brahmanical qualifications as they are stated in the book called Sanat Sujata, but is not a devotee and is averse to the lotus feet of the Lord, he is certainly lower than a devotee who is a dog eater but who has dedicated everything, mind, words, activities, wealth, and life to the Supreme Lord. Such a devotee is better than such a Brahmana because the devotee can purify his whole family, whereas the so called Brahmana in a position of false prestige cannot purify even himself. So here the Mitri is asking, so we don't need to perform those rituals if we are devotees? Well, this is how we conduct ourselves. According to the scripture, there is no need. Because when we serve the Lord, it is automatically included. All the Pitra Karma rituals are automatically included. Just now the verse we have seen. But, family will make noise and, society won't accept. And so, for those reasons, one may do those rituals in this way. See, ज्ञातयः पितरौ पुत्रा भ्रातरः सुहृदो परे यद्वदन्ति यदिच्छन्ति चानुमोदेत निर्ममः. An intelligent man in human society should make his own program of activities very simple. If there are suggestions from his friends, children, parents, brothers, or anyone else, he should externally agree, saying, yes, that is all right, but internally he should be determined not to create a cumbersome life in which the purpose of life will not be fulfilled. So, for these circumstances, these rituals may be performed, to satisfy them, family, and society in general. ये वामयीशे कृतसौहृदार्था जनेषु देहं भरवार्तिकेषु गृहेषु जायात्मजरातिमत्सु न प्रीतियुक्ता यावदर्थाश्च लोके. Those who are interested in reviving Krishna consciousness and increasing their love of Godhead do not like to do anything that is not related to Krishna. They are not interested in mingling with people who are busy maintaining their bodies, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. They are not attached to their homes, although they may be householders. Nor are they attached to wives, children, friends, and wealth. At the same time, they are not indifferent to the execution of their duties. Such people are interested in collecting only enough money to keep the body and soul together. So, of course, when a person passes away, there are some rituals to be done. Um, but especially the yearly, every year, the what is that? What is it? Tarpana Vidhi. Yes, Tarpana Vidhi. That actually there's no need for the devotee to do. Yada te moha kalilam. Okay, this is the verse. But in the purport, there is another verse. सन्ध्यावन्दन भद्रमस्तु भवतो भोः स्नानतुभ्यं नमो भो देवाः पितरश्च तर्पणविधौ नाहं क्षमः क्षम्यताम् यत्र क्वापि निषद्य यादवकुलोत्तमस्य कंसद्विषः स्मारं स्मारमघं हरामि तदलं मन्ये किमन्येन मे. O my prayers 3 times a day, all glory to you. O bathing, I offer my obeisances unto you. O demigods, forefathers, please excuse me for my inability to offer you my respects. Now, wherever I sit, I can remember the great descendant of the Yadu dynasty, Krishna, the enemy of Kamsa, and thereby I can free myself from all sinful bondage. I think this is sufficient for me. So, actually, see, one thing you must understand that when a person dies, his body has to be cremated. That ritual one has to do. Okay. There is the Vaishnava way of doing it. Like, when devotees passed away, what we do in general is that we'll have a kirtan. Um, we'll have a kirtan, and then the body is cremated, and those ashes are taken to, holy river like Ganga or Yamuna, and then we put those ashes in that river. So that's how it is done. As devotees, we do that, and also not only that, there is Godanam. I mean, of course, we cannot donate cows. We don't have cows to donate, but at least we do a service to the cows by feeding the cows, and also we organize Vaishnava Bhojan to feed all the Vaishnavas. So that is to be done. So that's how a Vaishnavas. You can see how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did the ritual for when Haridas Thakur passed away. There was a big loud kirtan, and then the prasad was distributed. So this is the way a Vaishnava's passing away is to be performed. Um, but even if the person is not Vaishnava, one can always chant kirtan. Why not? But if the family members are, they have made arrangements for, in other ways, like in other countries, in Christian ways or whatever, or in India, there is Martha Vidhi and Shaiva Vidhi and this and that. They've already done those arrangements. Then you have to just chant Hare Krishna. If you can do kirtan, that is even more auspicious. But if circumstances do not allow, then one has to just, chant that's what we did. I mean, um, and the rituals were going on, we just chanted Hare Krishna throughout, and that's how we did the ceremony for our father. So does that mean pure devotees or normal Kanishta devotees? So of course, Prahlad Maharaj is a pure devotee. I don't know, somewhere some Acharya commentary. I cannot vouch for this, but what I've heard is 21 generations is for Uttamadhikari, 14 generations is for Madhyamadhikari, and 7 generations for Kanishta Adhikari. 7 generations of forefathers. That's what I've heard somewhere, but I can't vouch for it. I don't know if any Acharya has written. That's what I've heard one devotee tell at one time. I have to find out. But anyway, just the act of doing it is already, um, engaging in Krishna consciousness is already, it already includes all Pitra karma and everything. But still, of course, when somebody dies, the body has to be cremated and some ritual has to be followed, coupled with chanting or just chanting. So, if someone dies in the house, can one perform deity service or worship? What should the devotees do? So, this is another thing. If there are only devotees, actually, there is nothing that can restrict. One should still, of course, when one sees a dead body, on that day you cannot see the deity. But after that, the next day you have to continue. In the meantime, if you have to eat, you can always offer by mantra and eat the prasadam. So in this way, we also did. During the 10 days, apparently there's supposed to be no cooking in the house, something like that. But we cooked ourselves because we cannot eat anybody else's cooking. So we cooked ourselves and ate prasadam. So these things have to be adjusted. But the main thing is um, the departed soul must receive the highest benefit. It is because the people, they know only the karma kanda way of doing things, and that too they do with so many faults. Honestly, there are many faults even in the performance of those rituals. When I saw them, so many faults are there. In faults in the priest who does it, and then the paraphernalia, everything. There are so many faults. That's why only the holy name, the chanting, is the actual purifying factor there. Nothing else will really work in this, especially in this Kali Yuga. That's why it is said, Kalo nastyeva 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 gatiranyatha. Harer nama, Harer nama, eva kevalam. Nothing else will work actually. You see, that's why there is this verse. At one point, one of the priests was telling me not to chant. I was chanting on my beads because there was some gap and I was chanting on my beads. Another one of the priests, was asking me not to chant because chanting will have no effect when this during this period. I corrected him. That's not the case at all. In fact, whatever you are doing will become perfect just by this chanting. So, but they don't understand. They don't understand these things. You see, mantratas tantratas chidram desha kalarhavastutah sarvam karoti nischidram manu sankirtanam tava. There may be discrepancies in pronouncing the mantras and observing the regulatory principles, and moreover, there may be discrepancies in regard to time, place, person, and paraphernalia. But when your Lordship's holy name is chanted, everything becomes faultless. In fact, one or two times, a couple of times, there was some mistake in the procedure. In Of course, there are so many things which are not according to the exact shastric way of doing things. The procedure is very, very elaborate. The thing we did was an extremely simplified version of it. Um, so actually we cannot really do the rituals in this Kali Yuga. And even in that, there was some mistake. Some mantra was chanted differently, or some um, you have to put your sacred thread in this way, and in this way you have to change so many times. And at one point, he did not ask us to change to the other way, and then he asked us to do something, and then he realized, oh, I did not ask you. Then to counter or atone for that, he just chanted the name Narayana, 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 Narayana 10 times. So that is the only thing. I mean, if something goes wrong, the thing that will adjust it or correct it is the name of Narayana. So if that is the only thing that we're doing, then there's actually no other need for anything else. Now one can just chant, but one may still do these rituals, just like another example I'll give you. Vrindavan Krishna Balram Mandir. Prabhupada was inaugurating that, and at that time there was because he called the local priests to do the ritual, inauguration ritual, the yajna and all that. And as the yajna was going on, he asked the devotees to do sankirtan, chanting, kirtan. So after the whole thing is finished, then Prabhupada said to the devotees, "This sankirtan is the real inauguration ceremony. That fire thing that the priests, local priests, were doing, that is just to satisfy the people that okay, there is some authentically it was done. Some priests, Vrindavan priests, just to involve them in the thing, so that Vrindavan Vasis also can come and participate in the temple and all that, in order not to start a controversy in the society. Oh, this Swami is doing something else. He did not do any fire sacrifice. It's not a proper temple. People unnecessary controversy. To avoid all of that, he had that ceremony go on with the priests there. At the same time, he asked the kirtan to go on. He said the kirtan is the real inauguration sacrifice. This thing is just for samaj, for the society. So previously, these rituals of the fire sacrifice, they had meaning. Kriteya dhyato Vishnu Tretayam yajato makhai. In Treta Yuga, these sacrifices were performed. And then the priests, the paraphernalia, everything was perfectly arranged. And the priests were also very tapobala. They had the strength of tapasya. Nowadays, the priests are chanting. I mean, they are taking all intoxicants. They ask for tea and coffee. They eat pan, everything. What? I mean, there is no tapasya. Some tapasya they may do here and there, but nothing compared to what priests should be doing, brahmanas should be doing according to the Vedic rules. So, if there are so many discrepancies, and then the paraphernalia also, you know, I can go on. I mean, all the adjustments that were made in the ritual that we did, but that's the case. I mean, there are so many adjustments. So, really, if we want to really do what the mantras are saying, actually, we cannot do. It's not possible in this Kali Yuga. So, but when your Lord's holy name is chanted, that's it. When your Lordship's holy name, Krishna's holy name is chanted, everything becomes faultless. Manu, do I have to do anything for my karmic Christian family members who may die? If they pass away, let's see. No, you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, if you can organize kirtan, that will be good. Otherwise, you chant japa. You can attend and then just chant japa. Whatever they do, let them do. For one of my grandma, I did Ekadashi and gave its results to her. How did you give her? How did you give her the results? Here, grandma, take. How did you give? So the thing is, we have no means of giving anything. We see this is Kali Yuga. The Ribhu Devatas, they carry all these things by as if like post when the offerings are made in the yajna and all that. But we, when you say I gave her the results and all that, see this kind of language is dangerous because how do you know you gave her? So the thing is, we can just do it, and Krishna has his arrangement how he will do those things. Now we don't have to do specifically Ekadashi or something like that. We just have to do our sadhana. That is enough. That is enough. And if we can arrange for kirtan and distribution of and yes, another thing we did for my father's thing, on the 12th day there is you have to do dana, some kind of dan to relatives or whatever. It can be some books. Usually people give some stotras, the books, small books or something. So we gave Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita to all our relatives. All whoever came, every family got one Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. So we can do distribution of books, we can do distribution of prasadam and kirtan, and feed the Vaishnavas and cows. And this is how one should do the Vaishnav way of last rites for the departed soul. So Hare Krishna League is saying Nimananda Prabhu told in one Ekadashi story that we can also give merits to others. You see, these were performed not in this Kali Yuga. Those stories that Ekadashi stories were there. They happened in other yugas, and there they actually had the means to subtly send those results to those departed soul by mantra and all this. Now the point is, in Kali Yuga, Kalo nasteva 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 gataranyatha. We have no control over these things. We have no clue how these things even work. So the best way we can, what we can do is rely on Krishna. For example, Durvasa Muni had so much mystic power. He had full control of mystic power. He knew what he wanted to do. He did what he can do. I mean, he did what he wanted to do with his mystic power. He took one hair and then bring out a big fire demon from that. How to do these things? He had full control of how to do these things. Ambarish Maharaj, on the other hand, did not know all these things. But what did he do? He depended on Krishna. And he became more powerful than the Durvasa Muni. So similarly, how to do these, how to offer the results of Ekadashi or following these things were done in those days when they could do these things. They knew how to do these things. Today in this Kali Yuga, we are completely ill-equipped. But the benediction we have is that we have the holy name. And by just chanting, Krishna will take care how it has to be done, where is that departed soul, how this thing, how he will receive benefit from us. That is Krishna's arrangement. So, what we should do is what our spiritual master gave us. Did our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, give us a uh, method where we should do something for a departed soul or something? No, he just laid out these things. What is that? Feeding the cows, and then go poshana, and then there is Brahman bhojan or Vaishnav bhojan. In fact, not even Brahman, Vaishnav bhojan, and then there is distribution of literature, distribution of prasadam to the people in general. That's it, and kirtan, of course. Kirtan. And that is the way one should observe anybody is passing away. That is the Vaishnava way of doing it. And that will work. That is more powerful than all these rituals. So we should do what is given to us by Srila Prabhupada. So there may be many things even in Shastras, many rituals that will be mentioned here and there, so many things. So just because it's mentioned in Shastra, we do that? Not like that. We should do it still what is given to us by our spiritual master. For our time and circumstances and place, he has given us a system, we should follow that. We should not follow anything else. And also doing this for a forefather, especially Ekadashi, and then offering or something. First of all, we don't know whether we can offer. How to offer, we don't even know. The next thing is, what did Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Yat karoshi yad ashnasi yad juhoshi dadasi yat tapassasi kaunteya tat kurushvam madarpanam. What did Krishna say? Tat kurushvam madarpanam. Madarpanam means you offer to me. So he says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. So if you are doing as an offering to a departed soul, that is in violation of this principle of Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? So, so we should just do for Krishna. And let Krishna, because he is the Paramatma in everyone's heart. He is the Paramatma in the departed soul's heart wherever he is also. He is directing his wanderings. Right? Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudhani maya Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati. So he is directing the wanderings of everyone. Let him take care of the whole thing. We can just depend on him. We have no clue how to do these things. We will just follow what our spiritual master gave us. Srila Prabhupada gave us. We'll just do like that. Okay? Otherwise, everybody will start doing their own things. Oh, I offered my Ekadashi. I did Govardhan Parikrama and then I offered that result to my forefather. How are you offering here? I want to know how you're offering. I want to see that offering procedure. Can you show me? So it may be our wishful thinking that okay, I have offered. But we should do it in terms of how Guru Sadhu Shastra. So how Srila Prabhupada gave us. If we do that, then it will automatically go. Then Prabhupada will be satisfied, Krishna will be satisfied, and when Krishna is satisfied, he will satisfy the particular pitra, the departed soul. That will be done automatically. So there's no need of doing anything else. So Hare Krishna is saying, I have personally experienced that offering Charanamrita to a dead person picture changed the atmosphere in the house. Yeah, that's what we should do. And also, yes, when a person is, passed away, on the dead body, we should put tulsi leaf offered to the Lord and a garland offered to the deity. One can keep as the body is being burned, that should be there touching the body, and that is very auspicious. Tulsi twig as well. And yes, Charanamrita on the lips, that also. In one lecture, Narayan Maharaj in Narsimha appearance after quoting 7, 10, 18 said this: for Uttamadhikari 21, forward and back will be liberated. Regarding those of Madhyamadhikari 14, regarding Kanishta 7. Okay, Narayan Maharaj, that's not very bona fide source, but Maybe there's an Acharya who has commented like that. I have heard it like this, but I'm not sure. But I will definitely not quote Narayan Maharaj. Is there any Shastra which can tell us when we will go to Golok? I have heard it from YouTube video. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita already, you remember me, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yadi nastatra samshayah. So, we remember Krishna, then we will go back. Until we remember Krishna, we won't go back. That's it. I don't know anything else. Okay. All right. So, we will go back to our reading. Friends and relatives came there to pacify Lord Chaitanya and his mother. Then Lord Chaitanya, even though he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, executed the rituals for his dead father according to the Vedic system. ततदिने प्रभु चित्ते करिला चिंतन गृहस्थः इलामाय वे चाहि गृह धर्म. After some days, the Lord thought, I did not take sannyas, and since I am remaining at home, it is my duty to act as a grihastha. Grihini गृहिणी विना गृह धर्म ना होय शोभन एतु चिंति विवाह करिते होइल मन. Without a wife, Lord Chaitanya considered there is no meaning to householder life. Thus, the Lord decided to marry. न गृहं गृहमित्याहुर्गृहिणी गृहमुच्यते तया हि सहितः सर्वान् पुरुषार्थान् समश्नुते. Merely a house is not a home, for it is a wife who gives a home its meaning. If one lives at home with his wife, together they can fulfill all the interests of human life. Purushartha. Purusharthan means dharma, artha, kama, moksha. For karmakandya activities, husband and wife must be there. Then only the fire of sacrifice in the house can be lighted. So these rules are there. That's why when Ramachandra Bhagwan, when Mother Sita went um, into the earth, after that, when Lord Ram used to do the sacrifices, he used to have a golden form of Sita Devi beside him, and he used to do the yajnas like that. He did not accept another wife. दैवे एक दिन प्रभु पढ़िया आसिते वल्लभाचार्य कन्या देखे गंगा पथे. One day when the Lord was coming back from school, he accidentally saw the daughter of Vallabhacharya on the way to the Ganga. पूर्व से पूर्व सिद्ध भाव दुहार उदय करिला दैवे वनमाली घटक सची स्थाने आइला. When the Lord and Lakshmi Devi met, their relationship awakened, having already been settled, and coincidentally, the marriage maker Vanamali came to see Sachi Mata. Purport: Vanamali Ghataka, a resident of Navadvip and a Brahmana by caste, arranged the marriage of the Lord to Lakshmi Devi. This is Lakshmi Priya. He was formerly Vishwamitra, who negotiated the marriage of Lord Ramachandra, and later he was the Brahmana who negotiated the marriage of Lord Krishna with Rukmini. That same Brahmana acted as the marriage maker of the Lord in Chaitanya Leela. See how beautiful. So, this is called Nitya Siddha. You know, when in the Bhagavad Gita, there is a hint about this. Krishna says to Arjuna, Shri Bhagavanuvacha bahuni me vyatitani janmani tava charjuna tanyaham veda sarvani natvam vetha parantapa. The personality of God, it said, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. So, Krishna and Arjuna, whenever Krishna comes in any of his different avatars, Arjuna also comes because he is an eternal associate. He is a Nitya Siddha, eternal associate of the Lord. And in different capacities he may come. Like in Nara Narayan. Narayan is Krishna, Nara is actually Arjuna. So in that way, because why Krishna said this verse? Because Arjuna asks the question in the previous verse. He asks, how is it? Because Krishna says, I have spoken this science to the sun god previously, and in the course of time, because millions of years have passed, that sampradaya was broken, and then now the knowledge is lost. And today I'm speaking to you again, Arjuna, the same original old knowledge. Then Arjuna was like, wait a minute, you spoke to the sun god millions of years ago, but you are my age. What are you talking about? So this is what he said. Arjuna uvacha aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvatah kathametad vijaniyam tvamadau proktavaniti. Arjuna said, the sun god Vivasvan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed the science to him? So this is why Krishna spoke this thing. That many births both you and I have passed, I can remember all of them, but you can. That means, in other words, Arjuna, you were also there when I was speaking to the sun god. You don't remember it. I remember. So here we can understand that the eternal associates of the Lord, they always are with the Lord, wherever the Lord goes. So similarly, here it appears in today's verse that this Brahmana, Vanamali Ghataka, this Vanamali Ghatak was Vishwamitra, who negotiated the marriage of Ram. He took them to the Swayamvara of Sita, and Ram broke the Haradhanu and he married Sita. And in Krishna Leela, there is the the Brahmana who sent the love letter of Rukmini to Krishna, and it's nicely explained actually in that chapter 10:52. Uh, okay. See here, Badarayanar. Okay. Let's read here. Let's see, this is 10:52-21. Badarayani said, that means Shukadeva Goswami. There was a king named Bhishmaka, the powerful ruler of Vidarbha. He had 5 sons and 1 daughter of lovely countenance. Countenance means face. Um, Rukmi was the firstborn son, followed by Rukmaratha, Rukmabahu, Rukmakesha, and Rukmamali. Their sister was the exalted Rukmini. Then, hearing of the beauty, prowess, transcendental character, and opulence of Mukunda from visitors to the palace who sang his praises, Rukmini decided that he would be the perfect husband for her. So she only heard about Krishna from visitors to the palace who sang his praises, and Rukmini already decided Krishna should be my husband. Then Krishna knew that Rukmini possessed intelligence, auspicious bodily markings, magnanimity, beauty, proper behavior, and all other good qualities. Concluding that she would be an ideal wife for him, he made up his mind to marry her. So he also then, because Rukmi envied the Lord, O king, he forbade his family members to give his sister to Krishna, although they wanted to. So family members of Rukmini, they wanted to give Rukmini to Krishna, but Rukmi forbade. Instead, Rukmi decided to give Rukmini to Shishupala. Dark-eyed Vaidarbhi, that means Rukmini, was aware of this plan and it deeply upset her. Vaidarbhi means daughter of Vidarbha, the ruler of Vidarbha. And it deeply upset her. Analyzing the situation, she quickly sent a trustworthy Brahmana to Krishna. This Brahmana was reborn as Vanamali Ghatak, who arranged the marriage of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Lakshmi Priya. Upon reaching Dwarka, the Brahmana was brought inside by the gatekeepers and saw the primeval personality of Godhead sitting on a golden throne. And here, Krishna, you see how he received this Brahmana. Seeing the Brahmana, Sri Krishna, Lord of the Brahmanas, came down from his throne and seated him. Then the Lord worshipped him just as he himself is worshipped by the demigods. Look at how not only Sudama Vipra, but also this Brahmana, the Lord got down his throne, put the Brahmana on the throne and worshipped him. Just as the demigods would worship Krishna, he worshipped the Brahmana. Look at how exalted worship he gave the Brahmana. After the Brahmana had eaten and rested, Sri Krishna, the goal of saintly devotees, came forward and while massaging the Brahmana's feet, you see, with his own hands, he patiently questioned him as follows. O best of exalted Brahmanas, are your religious practices sanctioned by senior authorities proceeding without great difficulty? Is your mind always fully satisfied? When a Brahmana is satisfied with whatever comes his way and does not fall away from his religious duties, those very religious principles become his desire cow, fulfilling all his wishes. There is another verse from the Mahabharata. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. That means those who protect dharma, dharma will protect them. So here, when a Brahmana is satisfied with whatever comes his way and does not fall away from his religious duties, then those very religious principles become his desire cow, kamadhuk. It is said here. You can see, you see kamadhuk. Swadharmat sahyasyakhila kamadhuk. Akhila kamadhuk. Kamadhuk. Akhila, of everything, kamadhuk, the mystic cow, milked for fulfillment of any desire. Kamadhenu. Fulfilling all his desires. So, an unsatisfied Brahmana wanders to another restlessly from one planet to another, even if he becomes king of heaven. But a satisfied Brahmana, though he may possess nothing, rests peacefully, all his limbs free of distress. I repeatedly bow my head in respect to those Brahmanas who are satisfied with their lot. Saintly, prideless, and peaceful, they are the best well wishers of all living beings. Brahmana is your king attending to your welfare. Indeed, that king in whose country the citizens are happy and protected is very dear to me. I mean, the king should take care of the Brahmanas very nicely. Whence have you come, crossing the impassable sea, and for what purpose? Explain all this to us if it is not a secret, and tell us what we may do for you. Thus questioned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead who incarnates to perform his pastimes, the Brahman told him everything. Sri Rukmini Uvacha. So, he directly read from the letter. Rukmini said in her letter as read by the Brahmana. So, that means writing was there even then, and Rukmini actually wrote in her letter. So, this is the real love letter. So, in the material world, there are so many letters. No, love letters, so called. Nowadays, no letters, they're all messages, love messages, WhatsApp. But it's not love messages, lusty messages. Here is real love because this is with Krishna. So, of course, she said many things. In fact, here she asks um, that I have heard about you and I just want you as my husband. So, and then you are equal only to yourself in lineage. So, she glorified him. And finally, there is this verse especially, very nice verse. You can go and read this whole thing. I think only like 11 or 12 verses, whole love letter. यस्याङ्घ्रिपङ्कजरजः स्नपनं महान्तो वाञ्छन्त्युमापतिरिवात्मतमोपहत्यै यर्ह्यम्बुजाक्षनलभेयभवत् प्रसादम् जह्यामसून्व्रतकृशान् शतजन्मभिः स्यात्. O lotus-eyed one, great souls like Lord Shiva hanker to bathe in the dust of your lotus feet and thereby destroy their ignorance. If I cannot obtain your mercy, I shall simply give up my vital force, which will have become weak from the severe penances I will perform. Then, after hundreds of lifetimes of endeavor, I may obtain your mercy. So, He's saying that Krishna, please accept me as your wife, and she gave a plan also how to do it. And she said, if you do not come, then I will do so much tapasya that my body may become weak and I may even die. And even after many hundreds of lifetimes, if I have to do such tapasya, I will do, and finally I will obtain you. Until then, I will not stop. So that serious she was, you know. So this is the love letter. Anyway, he read it out to her. So that Brahmana who negotiated the marriage between Rukmini and Krishna and Vishwamitra, he is Brahmana who is nothing, who is none other than Vishwamitra. And that same Vishwamitra came as Vanamali Ghatak in the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. So सचिर इंगिते संबंध करिलो घटन लक्ष्मी के विवाह कइलो सचिर नंदन. Following the indications of Sachi Devi, Vanamali Ghatak arranged the marriage, and then thus in due course the Lord married Lakshmi Devi. विस्तारिया वर्णिलाता वृंदावन दास एट पौगंड लीलार सूत्र प्रकाश. This is Pauganda Leela. Nanddas Thakur has elaborately described all these pastimes of the Lord's early age. What I have given is but a condensed presentation of the same pastimes. So Vrindavandas Thakur wrote the Chaitanya Bhagavat, which was then called Chaitanya Mangal. Then the name was changed to Chaitanya Bhagavat later. Because Lochan Das wrote another Chaitanya Mangal. So this is interesting. He married Lakshmi Priyam Pauganda Leela. He was very young, between 11 to 15. That was his age. And Lakshmi Devi also was around that age. So this is not even Kaishore. Kaishore means like 15 above, youthful. Right? Pauganda means before that. So early he was married. औगंड वयसे लीला बहुत प्रकार वृंदावन दास इहा करे आछन विस्तार. The Lord performed many varieties of pastimes in his early age, and Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur has described them elaborately. अतएव दिन मात्र इहा अतएव दिन मात्र इहा देखाइला चैतन्य मंगले सर्वलोके ख्यात होइला. I have given but a single hint of these pastimes, for Vrindavan Das Thakur in his book Chaitanya Mangal, now Chaitanya Bhagavat, has described them all vividly. श्री रूप रघुनाथ पदे जार आश चैतन्य चरितामृत कहे कृष्णदास. So this is the final verse. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ādi Leela 15th chapter describing the Lord's Pauganda Leela. So this is Pauganda Leela. So next chapter is 16th chapter. The pastimes of the Lord between his childhood and youth. So we will also go here. Now what is the time? 8:45. So we will do a little bit of this as well. This chapter fully describes Lord Chaitanya's Kaishore Leela, or the activities he performed just before attaining youth. So this means his marriage to Lakshmi Priya is well before his youth. Just imagine, you see, that was the system in those days. Even boys were so young, girls were so young. I mean, even Prabhupada, for example, he was 21 years old when he was married, and his wife was 11 years old. And that was the way. Um, and that is actually the proper way. Nowadays, they say child marriage and all that. But honestly, especially for the of course boys, he has to maintain the family, so he has to learn something, and he has to have some kind of livelihood. The girls, Once they attain puberty, then they have to be married. In fact, they were married before the puberty itself. There is Brahma Vivaha. So by the time of puberty, then they are given to the boys' side. So that was the system. Imagine, I mean, there is in Western society this is unimaginable, but actually this is a very very perfect system. There's nothing wrong with that, but when it is abused, that was when it became a horrible thing. Old men, they were marrying like little girls and then raping them and doing all sorts of nonsense. So that is completely condemned. But a child or a girl should be protected, and that means because after puberty her hormones will go bonkers, and then she if she's not having a partner, a husband, then she will be very much embarrassed. In fact, the parents, they used to make arrangements for the girl and give her to the suitable boy. Nowadays the parents have relinquished such duties, so the girl has to attract some boy herself, and for that she has to wear all kinds of things and do all kinds of things and you know get herself into sometimes even improper men's hands, and then sometimes they get raped, sometimes exploited sexually. So many things happen because of a disorder in society. These things are not done properly. So it's a very very stable system that the girl was given away at that age, and then soon after she will have children. And it is not uncommon for the mother to be only like say 13, 14 years older than the child, because at that time she would deliver the child. So by the time she is 30, she may even be a grandmother, because if she gave birth at say 14, say for example, by the time she's 30, her eldest child will be 16, and if it's a girl, she would have been married as well and she would have a child of her own. So at 30 she would be already a grandmother, and 45 great grandmother, 60. So every 15 years you just take a calculation like that. So by the time she would pass away, she would see maybe 6 to 7 generations down. That used to be the system back in those days. Not that that is the ideal, but it used to happen like that because early marriage used to bring this kind of things. Now it is unimaginable. Grandma will be maybe 80 years old, then only she'll become grandma, or 60, 70. But those days, by the time she's 60, already four more generations have come out, you know, like that. So this chapter fully describes Lord Chaitanya's Kaishor Leela, the activities he performed just before attaining youth. During this time, he studied deeply and was victorious over greatly learned scholars. During his Kaishor Leela, the Lord also sported in the water. He went to East Bengal, which is Bangladesh now, to secure financial assistance, cultivate knowledge, and introduce the Sankirtan movement, and there he met Tapan Mishra. Why he needs financial assistance? Pastimes. He doesn't need anything actually. Hmm? And there he met Tapan Mishra, whom he instructed about spiritual advancement and ordered to go to Varanasi. While Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was touring East Bengal, his wife Lakshmi Devi was bitten by a serpent, or by the serpent of separation, and thus she left this world. So this is interesting. The way she passed away in this Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is mentioned that she was bitten by the serpent of separation, Vihara Sarpa. Um, but in other texts, maybe it is mentioned as actually bitten by a serpent. But according to Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's the separation. It's a snake of separation. She was bitten by that and she passed away. Maybe out of separation, she passed away. It may have been a real serpent as well. When the Lord returned home, he saw that his mother was overwhelmed with grief because of Lakshmi Devi's death. Therefore, at her request, he later married his second wife, Vishnu Priya Devi. This chapter also describes the Lord's argument with Keshav Kashmiri, the celebrated scholar, and the Lord's criticism of his prayer glorifying Mother Ganga. In this prayer, the Lord found 5 kinds of literary ornaments and 5 kinds of literary faults, thus defeating the Pandit. Later, the Kashmir Pandit, who was known to have been victorious all over the country, submitted himself to the goddess of learning, and by her order, he met Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the morning of the next day and surrendered unto him. First verse. कृपा सुधा सरिद्यस्य विश्वम् आप्लावयन्त्यपि नीचगैव सदा भाति तं चैतन्य प्रभुं भजे. I worship Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose nectarian mercy flows like a great river, inundating the entire universe. Just as a river flows downstream, Lord Chaitanya especially extends himself to the fallen. So this is the Krishnadas Kaviraj's signature move. That in every chapter, the first verse will be a Sanskrit verse, kind of summarizing the. It's like a Mangalacharan, almost invoking auspiciousness, a prayer to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sometimes summarizing or kind of mentioning the theme of the chapter. Purport. Narottam Das Thakur has sung Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Koro More. He praised the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy because he is the mercy incarnation, having appeared especially to reclaim the fallen souls. Who said, I heard this phrase that Lord Ram is Maryada Purushottam Ram, Krishna is Leela Purushottam Krishna, Sri Krishna, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Prema Purushottam Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Lord Ram, he showed Maryada. Maryada Purushottam. He how to behave, as a perfect ideal human being. And then Sri Krishna, he performed his leelas to his maximum extent. And as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he showed us the love of Godhead. So Maryada Purushottam, Leela Purushottam, Prema Purushottam. Again, where I've heard devotees saying this, but I have not read anywhere. But he praised the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy because he is the mercy incarnation, having appeared especially to reclaim the fallen souls. The more fallen one is, the greater one's claim to the favor of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One must only be very sincere and serious. So this was part of the question in today's morning's morning Bhagavatam class. One must only be very serious and sincere. So the more fallen one is, the greater one's claim to the favor of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is very meaningful. So anyway, even if one is very fallen, one should be sincere. Then he will advance very quickly. So despite being contaminated by all the bad qualities of this Kali Yuga, if one surrenders unto the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord will surely and certainly deliver him. The best example is Jagai and Madhai. In this age of Kali, practically everyone is like Jagai and Madhai. But the Sankirtan movement inaugurated by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is still flowing like a great river, inundating the entire world, and thus the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is successfully claiming all fallen souls to free them from contamination. जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of the Lord. जीयात् कैशोर चैतन्यो मूर्तिमत्यागृहाश्रमात् लक्ष्म्यार्चितोऽथ वाग्देव्या दिशां जयि जयच्छलात्. Vagdevya. Saraswati is also called Vagdevi. So when we went to Prodhutur in the recent Indian trip, a town called Prodhutur, we did a lecture in the Vagdevi Institute. It's a college. Long live Long live Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Kaishora age. Both the goddess of fortune and the goddess of learning worshipped him. The goddess of learning, Saraswati, worshipped him in his victory over the scholar who had conquered all the world, and the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, worshipped him at home. Since he is therefore the husband of or lord of both goddesses, I offer my obeisances unto him. So his victory over the scholar who had conquered all over the world. His name was Keshav Kashmiri, and he was called Digvijayi. Digvijayi means who has conquered all directions. And this conquering is not exactly by military conquest, it is by conquest of debate. Debate means they would have a scholarly debate on Shastras or something like this. Then, in that way, they will establish their supremacy and defeat another scholar. And there are fighting bouts, right? There are boxing matches, martial arts competitions. So that is physical fight, whereas this is an intellectual fight. So they used to have arenas and people actually watching such debates. So they also used to watch. There are wrestling debate. Wrestling arenas. There are also debate arenas. So people used to watch such debates, and then there will be a referee as well, and so he will decide who's the winner. And in that way, they were conducted. Then there was a lot of these things before debate platforms. So the Keshav Kashmiri was Digvijayi. That means he conquered all directions. There was nobody who could give him a suitable fight in an argument. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defeated him. And since he exhibited this great scholarship, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is said that since he is the goddess of learning, Saraswati, worshipped him in his victory over the scholar who had conquered all the world. And the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, worshipped him at home. Lakshmi Devi was, his wife. And Saraswati, actually, eternally, Saraswati is the wife of Vishnu as well in the spiritual world. But in this way, in this pastime, in Chaitanya Lila, she served as the goddess of learning in his conquest against Keshav Kashmiri. And he exhibited great scholarship everywhere. एक कैशोर लीलार सूत्र अनुबंध शिष्यगण पढ़ायते करिला आरंभ. At the age of 11, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to teach students. This marks the beginning of his Kaishora age. At the age of 11. Wow. That means he was married at almost 10 years old. 10 years old boy was married. And now he is teaching students. शत शत शिष्य संगे सदा अध्यापन व्याख्या सुनी सर्वलोकेर चमकित मन. As soon as the Lord became a teacher, many students came to him. Shata Shata means hundreds and hundreds of students. Every one of them astonished to hear his mode of explanation. Sarva Shastre Sarva Pandit Paya Parajay Vinaya Bhangite Kara Dukha Nahi Hoy. The Lord defeated all kinds of scholars in discourses about all the scriptures, yet because of his gentle behavior, none of them were unhappy. Vividha Audhatya Kare Shishagana Sange Jahnavite Jalo Kere Kare Nana Range. The Lord as a teacher performed various kinds of pranks in his sporting pastimes in the water of the Ganga. Kato dine koilo prabhu bangete gaman jaha jai taha lao jai nama sankirtan. After some days, the Lord went to East Bengal, which is Bangladesh, and wherever he went, he introduced the Sankirtan movement. Purport. Although Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees in disciplic succession can defeat all kinds of learned scholars, scientists, and philosophers in arguments, thus establishing the supremacy of the personality of Godhead, their main business as preachers is to introduce Sankirtan everywhere. Simply to defeat scholars and philosophers is not the occupation of a preacher. Preachers must simultaneously introduce a Sankirtan movement, for that is the mission of the Chaitanya cult. Wow, this is so good. So here, Prabhupada is not saying that we should not defeat these scientists and philosophers and all these scholars. We should defeat them, yes, but that is not the only occupation of a preacher. He must simultaneously introduce a Sankirtan movement. That means he must do both. So he must introduce a Sankirtan movement everywhere, and he must defeat these scholars at the same time. This actually gives us the entire preaching formula of how we should conduct everywhere. We should defeat these big thought leaders of society by introducing our Chaitanya, what is that? Chaitanya's philosophy, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy. And for the common masses, we should introduce the Sankirtan movement. So what happens is, even those conquests over the intellectuals will be a good inspiration for the neophyte devotees or those who are just joining, to see that our philosophy stands head and shoulders above the rest of all the philosophies of the world. It gives them the confidence as well. So, of course, defeat them means not fight with anger, no, with a mood to actually change them. But if they don't change, never mind. At least the people who watch, they should change. They will be convinced more and more of our arguments, because you know our arguments will be tested against these philosophers, scientists, and all these people. So when they stand the test of all these arguments, then more and more the devotees also get inspiration. When Prabhupada had so many discussions with different kinds of people, sometimes religious leaders, sometimes political leaders, sometimes societal leaders, or thought leaders or philosophers or somebody like that. Oftentimes, they did not really join up after such discussions. But the devotees watched Prabhupada do it, and they also recorded it, and we can listen to some of those conversations. So when the devotees hear it, they will be very much inspired. Wow, this is how we should counter this argument, counter that argument. So it's not only knowing what is our philosophy, we should also know how to counter opposing arguments by presentation of our philosophy. We should know what is dharma, what is adharma, and also how to put our arguments against those adharmic principles, so that we can prove that this dharma is correct. I mean, especially this Sankirtan movement is the pinnacle of religion and it is a solution of all problems. We should be able to prove it against all arguments. So, mostly Prabhupada had these conversations for us, so that even we can learn actually. The person who conversed with Prabhupada, he may learn or may not learn. Of course, if he learned, that is good for him. But Prabhupada always wanted his conversations to be recorded, so that devotees will, in the future also, they will be able to learn. So this is very important. विद्यार प्रभाव देखी चमत्कार चिते शत शत पड़ुया आसी लागिले पड़िते. Struck with wonder by the influence of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's intellectual prowess, many hundreds of students came to the Lord and began studying under his direction. So, see, this is the other thing. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was winning these arguments with these intellectuals, that attracted, so this is the exact point I said, that attracted the attention of so many students who would otherwise, who would have taken some other guru or some other teacher. Now they were taking Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as their teacher, and they became studying under his direction. So this is the thing. It not only inspires the devotees, but also attracts people to become devotees. So these intellectual prowess or intellectual conquests should be done. Therefore, it is a very essential part of our preaching program, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur employed this to perfection, and so did Srila Prabhupada. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, of course, his role was a bit different. He did not have too many debates or something. He was introducing people to the Bhagavad philosophy. But then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was the one who really fought these so-called intellectuals and presented our Krishna consciousness movement as the highest. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur predicted that would happen. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur started it. And Prabhupada also did the same thing, and we should follow the same thing and actually establish our Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement as the religion of the world. সেই দেশে বিপ্রনাম মিশ্র তপন নিশ্চয় করিতে নারে সাধ্য সাধন. In East Bengal, there was a Brahmana named Tapan Mishra who could not ascertain the objective of life or how to attain it. So in East Bengal means Bangladesh now. So there was this Tapan Mishra who could not ascertain the objective of life or how to attain it. And why is stated in the next verse. We will go there. Purport. One must first ascertain the object of life and then understand how to attain it. Sambandha Abhideya. The Krishna consciousness movement is pointing out to everyone that the object of life is to understand Krishna, and to attain that goal of life, one must practice Krishna consciousness, following the methods prescribed by the Goswamis with reference to the authoritative Shastras and Vedas. This is a very famous verse. We always quote this. Bahu Shastre Bahu Vakye Chitte Brahma Hoy Sadhya Sadhana Shrestha Na Hoy Nishchoy. See, if one becomes a bookworm, reading many books and scriptures and hearing many commentaries and the instructions of many men, this will produce doubt within his heart. One cannot in this way ascertain the real goal of life. And this is what Tapan Mishra was doing. He was listening to everyone, reading everything, and he was getting confused. All kinds of philosophies, all kinds of viewpoints he was reading, and then he was getting confused. Purport. In Srimad Bhagavatam 7.13.8, it is said, Granthan naivabhyased bahun navyakhyam upajunjita. One should not read many books, nor should one try to make a profession of reciting many books, especially if one is a devotee. One must give up the ambition to be a learned scholar and in this way earn a worldly reputation and financial facilities. If one diverts his attention to studying many books, he cannot fix his mind in devotional service, nor can he understand many scriptures, for they are full of grave statements and meanings, and sometimes even contradictory, seemingly contradictory. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives his opinion that those who are attracted to studying many kinds of literature concerning various subject matters, especially fruitive activities and philosophical speculation, are deprived of unalloyed devotional service because of their splayed attention. They don't have Ekeha Kurunandana. Their attention is splayed. Man has a general tendency toward fruitive activities, religious ritualistic ceremonies, and philosophical speculation. A living entity, thus bewildered since time immemorial, does not understand the real goal of life, and thus his activities in life are wasted. Innocent persons misled in this way are deprived of unalloyed Krishna Bhakti, devotional service to the Lord. Tapan Mishra is a vivid example of such a person. He was a learned scholar, but he could not ascertain what the goal of life is. Therefore, he was given a chance to hear Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructing Sanatana Goswami. Lord Chaitanya's instruction to Tapan Mishra is especially significant for persons who loiter here and there, collecting books and reading none of them, thus becoming bewildered regarding the aim of life. So, is very instructive actually. So Prabhupada says, if you go to that verse that was quoted in the purport in the beginning, 7.13.8, it is prudent to read that as well in context. न शिष्यानुबध्नीत ग्रंथान् नैवाभ्यसेद बहून् न व्याख्यामुपयुञ्जीत नारम्भानारभेत् क्वचित्. Let's read this also. A sannyasi must not present allurements of material benefits to gather many disciples, nor should he unnecessarily read many books or give discourses as a means of livelihood. He must never attempt to increase material opulences unnecessarily. Purport. So-called swamis and yogis generally make disciples by alluring them with material benefits. There are so many gurus who attract disciples by promising to cure their diseases or increase their material opulence by manufacturing gold. These are lucrative allurements for unintelligent men. A sannyasi is prohibited from making disciples through such material allurements. Sannyasis sometimes indulge in material opulence by unnecessarily constructing many temples and monasteries, but actually such endeavors should be avoided. Temples and monasteries should be constructed for the preaching of spiritual consciousness of or Krishna consciousness, not to provide free hotels for persons who are useful for neither material nor spiritual purposes. Temples and monasteries should be strictly off limits to worthless clubs of crazy men. In the Krishna consciousness movement, we welcome everyone who agrees at least to follow the principles to follow the movement's regulative principles: no illicit sex, no intoxication, no meat eating, and no gambling. In the temples and monasteries, gatherings of unnecessary, rejected, lazy fellows should be strictly disallowed. The temples and monasteries should be used exclusively by devotees who are serious about spiritual advancement in Krishna consciousness. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains the word Arambhan as meaning Mathadi Vyaparan, which means attempts to construct temples and monasteries. The first business of the sannyasi is to preach Krishna consciousness, but if by the grace of Krishna facilities are available, then he may construct temples and monasteries to give shelter to the serious students of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, such temples and monasteries are not needed. See, this is especially in this Kali Yuga. In previous ages, there are many, many big temples. Now, you see what happened to those temples. They are just lying without any maintenance, nothing. They're just old ruins. That's all they are now. If you go to India, there are so many temples there. Um, and those which are remaining, many temples were also destroyed by the Mughal, by the Muslim invasion. But those which are remaining are just in ruins. They're also destroyed because, in the sense that the real purpose of the temple is lost now. There is no more um, sharing of knowledge. People just go there for like a tourist attraction, that's all. Just go there and sit down, chit chat, and come back. Nothing they're learning there. There should be spiritual universities. So, just constructing temples is not necessary. But of course, Goswamis also they constructed temples. But you see, even those Goswami temples also, if you go to Vrindavan, there is no teaching anywhere happening. You go to Radha Govind Mandir, Radha Madan Mohan Mandir of Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis, nothing is happening there now. See, over time, um, that thing has been lost, preaching. So when now you go there, there will be bats, there will be monkeys, there will be dogs, and such beautiful architecture for nothing almost. When it had so much meaning at that time, now it is almost nothing. So that's why we have to be very careful to keep the spirit of the temple alive. Prabhupada said, keep the temple alive by kirtan and classes. Otherwise, it will die. It will die. So even if there is temple, and especially in Kali Yuga, it will become more and more difficult to construct temple. Especially outside India, it's even more difficult. We should, of course, if it is possible, we should have a facility where everybody can be, where we can have our deity worship and people can come and congregate and listen. So for that, we need premises, of course. And if we have sufficient facilities, we can purchase the premises as well. But the main focus should be to preach. That should be the main focus, not building. Building temples should serve the greater purpose of preaching, not that building the temple is the purpose and all my preaching is just to build the temple and then after that sit down and um, eat and sleep. So these are the instructions. स्वप्ने एक विप्र कहे सुनह तपन निमाय पंडित पाश करह गमन. Tapan Mishra, being thus bewildered, was directed by a Brahmana in a dream to go to Nimai Pandit Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. तेहो तुम्हार साध्य साधन करिबे निश्चय साक्षात ईश्वर तेहो नाहि को संशय. Because he is the Lord, Ishvara, the Brahmana told him, undoubtedly he can give you proper direction. स्वप्न देखी मिश्र आसी प्रभुर चरणे स्वप्नेर वृत्तांत सब कैलो निवेदने. After seeing the dream, Tapan Mishra came to the shelter of Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet and he described all the details of the dream to the Lord. प्रभु तुष्ट हया साध्य साधन कहिला नाम संकीर्तन करो उपदेश कैला. The Lord, being satisfied, instructed him about the object of life and the process for attaining it. He instructed him that the basic principle of success is to chant the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Purport: the Krishna consciousness movement is based upon this instruction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that one must chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra regularly and according to the prescribed principles. We simply ask our Western students to chant at least 16 rounds a day, but sometimes we find that they fail to chant even these 16 rounds, and instead they bring many austere books and a worshipping method that diverts their attention in so many ways. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult is based upon the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Lord Chaitanya first advised Tapan Mishra to fix his mind on this chanting. We, the members of the Krishna consciousness movement, must strictly follow this advice of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay, there are some questions here. But I will first read and then, okay, another 15 minutes and then I will answer. तार इच्छा प्रभु संगे नवद्वीपे वसी प्रभु आज्ञा दिलो तुम्हें जाओ वाराणसी. Tapan Mishra desired to live with the Lord in Navadvip, but the Lord asked him to go to Varanasi, Banaras. ताहा आमा संगे तुम्हार होबे दर्शन आज्ञा पाया मिश्र कोइलो काशी ते गमन. The Lord assured Tapan Mishra that they would meet again in Varanasi. Receiving this order, Tapan Mishra went there. प्रभुर अतर्क्य लीला बुझिते न पारी स्वसंग छाड़ाया केने पाठाया काशीपुरी. I cannot understand the inconceivable pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for although Tapan Mishra wanted to live with him in Navadvip, the Lord advised him to go to Varanasi. Purport: when Tapan Mishra met him, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was living in household life, and there was no indication that in the future he would accept the sannyas order. But by asking Tapan Mishra to go to Varanasi, he indicated that in the future he would accept sannyas, and that when he would teach Sanatan Goswami, Tapan Mishra would take advantage of the opportunity to learn the object of life and the real process for attaining it. See, এই মত বঙ্গের লোকের কয়লা মহাহিত নাম দিয়া ভক্ত কয়ল পড়াইয়া পণ্ডিত. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu contributed the greatest benefit to the people of East Bengal by initiating them into Harinam, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and making them learned scholars by educating them. Purport: following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Krishna consciousness movement is distributing the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and inducing people all over the world to chant. We are giving people an immense treasury of transcendental literature translated into all the important languages of the world, and by the grace of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this literature is selling profusely, and people are chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra with great delight. This is the preaching process of the Chaitanya cult. Since the Lord wanted this cult preached all over the world, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is acting in a humble way so that the vision of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu may be fulfilled all over the world, especially in the Western countries. এই মত বঙ্গে প্রভু করে নানা লীলা এথা নবদ্বীপে লক্ষ্মী বিরহে দুঃখী হইলা. Because the Lord was engaged in various ways in preaching work in East Bengal, his wife Lakshmi Devi was very unhappy at home in separation from her husband. प्रभुर विरह सर्प लक्ष्मीरदम छिला विरह सर्प विषेतार परलोक होइला. So here, Viraha Sarpa Vishe Tar Paraloka Hoila. Here it is. The snake of separation bit Lakshmi Devi and its poison caused her death. Thus she passed to the next world. She went back home, back to Godhead. So here it is described like this: the snake of separation. Viraha Sarpa Visha. Purport: as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 8.6, Yam Yam Vapismaran Bhavam Jajatyante Kalevaram. One's practice in thinking throughout his entire life determines the quality of his thoughts at death. And thus at death one obtains a suitable body. According to this principle, Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune from Vaikuntha, who was absorbed in thought of the Lord and separation from him, certainly went back home to Vaikuntha Loka after death. Antare janila prabhu jate antaryami desher Deshere Aila Prabhu Shachi Dukha Jani. Lord Chaitanya knew about the disappearance of Lakshmi Devi because he is the super soul himself. Thus, he returned home to solace his mother, Shachi Devi, who was greatly unhappy about the death of her daughter in law. घरे आयला प्रभु बहुलया धन जन तत्वज्ञाने कैला सचिर दुख विमोचन. When the Lord returned home, bringing with him great wealth and many followers, he spoke to Chachi Devi about transcendental knowledge to relieve her of the grief she was suffering. Purport. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita 2.13, Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namohyati. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Such verses from the Bhagavad Gita or any other Vedic literature give valuable instructions on the occasion of someone's passing away. By discussing such instructions from the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, a sober man can certainly understand that the soul never dies but rather passes from one body to another. This is called transmigration of the soul. So you see, this is why Gita part is done when somebody passes away. Bhagavad Gita is studied, and sometimes Bhagavat. So these topics must be studied so that we can see the situation in the proper perspective from Shastra. That's why it is done. This is called transmigration of the soul. A soul comes into this material world and creates bodily relationships with a father, a mother, sisters, brothers, a wife, and children, but all these relationships pertain to the body, not the soul. Therefore, as described in the Bhagavad Gita, Dhiras Tatra Namuhyati, one who is sober is not disturbed by such phenomenal changes within this material world. Such instructions are called Tattva Katha or real truth. शिष्यगणलया पुनः विद्यारविलास विद्याबले सबजिनी औद्धत्य प्रकाश. After coming back from East Bengal, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again began educating others. By the strength of his education, he conquered everyone, and thus he was greatly proud. तबे विष्णुप्रिया ठाकुरानिर परिणय तबे तो करेला प्रभु दिग्विजय जय. Then Lord Chaitanya married Vishnupriya, the goddess of fortune, and thereafter he conquered a champion of learning named Keshav Kashmiri. Purport. As in the modern day there are many championships in sports, so in bygone days there were many learned scholars in India who were champions in learning. One such person was Keshav Kashmiri, who came from the state of Kashmir. He travelled all over India and at last came to Navadvip to challenge the learned scholars there. Unfortunately, he could not conquer the learned scholars in Navadvip, for he was defeated by the boy scholar Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Later, he understood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, he surrendered unto him and later became a pure Vaishnava in the Sampradaya of Nimbarka. He wrote Kaustubha Prabha, a commentary on the Vedanta commentary of the Nimbarka Sampradaya, which is known as the Parijata Bhashya. The Bhakti Ratnakar mentions Keshav Kashmiri and lists his predecessors in the disciplic succession of the Nimbarka Sampradaya. Srinivas Acharya, Vishwa Acharya, Purushottam, Vilas, Swarup, Madhva, Balabhadra, Padma, Shyama, Gopal, Kripa, Deva Acharya, Sundar Bhatta, Padmanabha, Upendra, Ramachandra, Vamana, Krishna, Padmakara, Shravana, Bhuri, Madhava, Shyama, Gopal, Balabhadra, Gopinath, Keshava, Gokula, and Keshav Kashmiri. It is stated in the Bhakti Ratnakar that Keshav Kashmiri was a favorite devotee of Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. By her grace, he was an extremely influential scholar, and he was the greatest champion among all the scholars in the four corners of the country. Therefore, he got the title Digvijayi, which means one who has conquered everyone in all directions. Of course, he did not go outside India. That does not mean he was not Digvijayi, because Bharat was the intellectual capital of the world. There was no other country even remotely close to the scholarship of Bharatvarsha, India. Um, and he was Digvijay. He belonged to a very respectable Brahmana family of Kashmir, Kashmiri Brahmin. Nowadays, I see Kashmir Brahmins, they eat fish. So it's all destroyed now. Later, by the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave up the profession of winning championships and became a great devotee. He joined the Nimbarka Sampradaya, one of the Vaishnava communities of the Vedic culture. वृंदावन दास इहा करियाछन विस्तार स्फुट नाहि करे दोष गुणेर विचार. Vrindavan Das Thakur has previously elaborately described this. That which is clear need not be scrutinized for good qualities and faults. Sheyam Shakahe Tare Kari Namaskar Jashuni Digvijay Kailo Apana Dhikkar. Wait a second, we'll just go to the previous one. That which is clear need not be scrutinized for good qualities and faults. That's a good thing to remember. स्फुट नाही करे दोष गुणेर विचार वृंदावन दास इहा करियाछन विस्तार. Sputa. What was clear? स्फुट नहीं करे दोष गुणेर विचार. This is a very good thing to remember. 1627 Ādi. Offering my obeisances to Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, I shall try to describe that portion of the Lord's analysis which, when he heard it, made the Digvijay feel himself condemned. ज्योत्स्नावती रात्रि प्रभु शिष्यगण संगे पसियाछन गंगा तीरे विद्यार प्रसंगे. Okay, so here we will stop. Okay. This pastime we will read in the next. So until 16:27 is what we stopped. Okay. So that is the pastimes of the Lord. And we will go to questions now. Manu is saying, "Oh, this is powerful and brings clarity." Ādi 16:8. What was that? 16:8? Yes. This makes sense in connection with Ādi 16.6. What is that? Yeah. By reading Prabhupada books, we indirectly read Tarka Shastra. Yes. Because he argues with all this, he defeats all these points as well. I wanted to read Salted Bread, biography of Russian devotees. Yeah, I read that. Not making many disciples isn't contradictory for preaching in mass scale. So, not exactly. So, we should actually go to the purport of this. There is this, we all know this verse, right? Jare dekha tare kaha Krishna upadesh, amar agnya guru hoya tare e desh. Instruct everyone to follow the orders of Lord Sri Krishna as they were given in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, become a spiritual master and try to liberate everyone in this land. So he said this. But if you see the two verses after this, Oh, sorry. Okay. But I was thinking, why? Whosoever's house Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted his alms by taking prasadam, he would convert the dwellers to his Sankirtan movement and advise them just as he advised the Brahmana named Kurma. See, the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explained here very nicely. One who surrenders to him and is ready to follow him with heart and soul does not need to change his location, nor is it necessary for one to change his status. One may remain a householder, medical practitioner, an engineer, or whatever, it doesn't matter. One only has to follow the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and instruct relatives and friends in the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. One has to learn humility and meekness at home, following the instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and in that way one's life will be spiritually successful. One should not try to be an artificially advanced devotee thinking, I am a first class devotee, so it is best not to accept any disciples. No. Because first class devotee, he doesn't accept disciples, second class devotee. So one should not try to be an artificially advanced devotee thinking, I am a first class devotee, so it is not best not to accept any disciples. Such thinking should be avoided. One has to become purified at home by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and preaching the principles enunciated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus, one can become a spiritual master and be freed from the contamination of material life. Now, there is something fishy here. Okay, let me actually just test it. I am seeing some very big problem here. They edited it, definitely. Hmm. I don't know which one is correct now. You see, in this version, 2019 version of the Veda base, here it is mentioned one should not try to be an artificially advanced devotee thinking, I am a first class devotee, so it is best not to accept any disciples. So we should, here it is said that we should not think like that. So there should be disciples, they should be preaching. I'm not a first class devotee thinking that, because second class devotee is the preacher, right? So he accepts disciples. I mean, not the second class devotee accepts disciples, but the first class devotee comes to the second class platform to preach and then accepts disciples. But the guru has to be of the first class standard. Here, it is said, oh, one should not try to be an artificially advanced devotee thinking, I am a first class devotee, so it is best not to accept any disciples. Such thinking should be avoided. One has to become purified at home by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and preaching the principles enunciated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus, one can become a spiritual master and be freed from the contamination of material life. Now, I have to show you this. Let's see. I'll show you an older version of this Veda base. Okay. You see this one now. So this is an older version. Here it is differently mentioned. One should not try to be an artificially advanced devotee thinking I'm a first class devotee. Such thinking should be avoided. It is best not to accept any disciples. One has to become purified at home by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and preaching the principles initiated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus, one can become a spiritual master and be freed from the contamination of material life. So, this is very different. In this version, it appears that um, we should not think that I am become a first class disciple, a first class devotee. So, we should stay humble and not accept disciples. And not thinking I'm a big guru, now I should have disciples. That is the meaning this thing conveys. It is best not to accept any disciples. Um, so one should preach, share this knowledge, but at the same time not accept disciples. And one should not think oneself a great devotee and now needs disciples and all these things. One has to become purified at home by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and preaching the principles enunciated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus, one can become a spiritual master and be freed from the contamination of material life. This is actually the formula for Shiksha Guru. One can do whatever he's doing and then he can just teach others. And he should not accept disciples. But here, in the other one, it is reading, wow, they changed it. Wow. Here, they changed it. Because we used to show this reference to show that, yes, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Jaradekha Tarikaha Krishna Upadesh. And he said, best not to accept disciples. Preach, but don't accept disciples. Don't think that you're a big devotee and now you're a guru and accept disciples. Best not to accept. So you just preach. So that is Shiksha Guru. Now they changed it and saying one should not try to be an artificially advanced devotee thinking I'm a first class devotee, so it is best not to accept any disciples. We should not think like that. Such thinking should be avoided. That is a great change. That is a very great change. That's dangerous. Which one is correct now? But either way, Nectar of Instruction says that unless one becomes completely self controlled, first verse, one is not qualified to make disciples. One cannot become a spiritual master. Here, whoever, Yare Dekha Tarekaha Krishna Upadesh, whatever you know, whoever you meet, whatever you know, you tell them about Krishna. For that, you don't have to be a big guru. So he is just going from house to house and eating there, and then asking them all to become devotees and preach. He's telling everyone this. That does not mean, he's asking everybody to become Diksha Guru immediately, right? So, this Jaradekha Daragaha Krishna Upadesh is for everyone. That is Shiksha Guru. Like Vartma Pradarshaka Guru. Show them the Krishna, the path to Krishna. But best not to accept any disciples. That means we should accept disciples. So because I'm an engineer, I'm working in the office, and then my next seat who's sitting there, hey, you know what? There is something called Bhagavad Gita here. Take this. Now I will initiate you. Is that doesn't sound right? So we have to see. I mean, how this is interesting. How they made this change. Wow, this is. I have to show this to Prabhu. So, in fact, I have quoted this many times. In fact, Prabhu also showed us this many times. And to show that we have to preach, but we don't have to accept disciples for ourselves. For Prabhupada, yeah, we should make them disciples, but not for ourselves. If it is for myself that I have to have disciples, then the parampara will deteriorate very fast, very fast. Because if all kind of classes of devotees become spiritual master, that's why Gaudiya Math, without qualification they became spiritual master, and now everything is spoiled. Prabhupada said. I mean, even such great sannyasis, none of them are qualified to become guru. And here they are saying that, oh, engineer, you are whatever office you can preach, and then suddenly you should not accept disciples. That is wrong. You should accept disciples. What is that? This is wrong. Something is wrong here. Hmm. Anyway, so we spotted the mistake there. I mean, we spotted the change. It's quite a heavy change, actually, if you consider it. So these kinds of changes we're not against, and I want to find out actually what Prabhupada said in his transcript, if in what he said. Maybe that will also clarify like what exactly Prabhupada meant and how, because there have been mis how to say um, mistakes in understanding what Prabhupada said, and then the translation was actually wrong. This happened even in the original 1972 version and all these books also. I want to see what exactly Prabhupada said and why they're translating like that. Because this version that is on the screen now, this actually flows, but this one is a bit different. Anyway, we will explore that. We will investigate that. For now, what is this? Okay, I'll go back here. Okay, so such thinking should be avoided. One has to become purified by chanting the Maha Mantra. So anyway, so that is there. So what was I saying? What was the original question? Yeah, not making many disciples isn't contradictory for preaching in mass scale. So we should not be too eager to make disciples. We should preach on mass scale, and when they want to become disciple, they have to be undergoing some purascharya, and that is the initial stages of cleansing. Hmm. Purascharya vidhi means before initiation, one hears, one has to see one's attitude, the prospective disciple's attitude. And if he's really serious, then he can be given initiation. And that's why we have 16 rounds, following four principles, and attending morning program, attending classes, reading books, eating prasadam. These are the things one has to do in order to qualify for initiation. So we should not be too eager to give initiation to anyone. But we should also want people to get initiated. So that means they have to be trained to that point where they want to get initiated and they're serious about it. That's what preaching is all about. So preaching for mass scale is never um, um, uh, given up, compromised. Okay, so another question: why doesn't ISKM Singapore have a proper temple? Is it only financial problem? So we have financially, we don't have nowhere near the money required to purchase a property in Singapore. And further, there is also not available land in Singapore for constructing a temple. Here, the land has to be zoned for use for worship. So such worship zone lands are extremely rare, and almost all are taken up. We don't even know of a single plot of land which is zoned for worship that is available. So that's why recently when we tried to have a temple building project, there was such a land which was which could have been used. Even that was actually not so straightforward. It was like a bit uh, tough, but the money required to get that land was huge. It's way beyond our capability, so we could not do it actually. So yeah, so there are a few problems because Singapore is just one city country. It's just one city country, and then the city is also very small. It's you know all the big cities of India are many times bigger than Singapore. Like I was in Hyderabad. The population is itself double the size of Singapore, and the area is at least 3 or 4 times size of Singapore. So it's huge, and it's such a small country, and they have such limited land resources, and the price is very high, therefore. And so politically there's a challenge here. Prabhupada was not allowed in this country. Of course, now they do allow, but still, I mean, other temples here, Hindu temples, they were given land on a very reduced price. It was a special price they were given at. We don't have such facilities for ourselves. So yeah, so there are a few factors playing into why we don't have a permanent temple here. But preaching is going on, so we will go on and operate from wherever Krishna allows us to. That's the thing. So, are we allowed to read some works of the previous acharyas for strengthening our knowledge or not? Because Srila Prabhupada said that devotees should read Chaitanya Bhagavat and some commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam. So, regarding this, we should first thoroughly read Srila Prabhupada's books. And not just once, multiple times we should read them. And one can read, yes, one can read other previous acharyas' books. But it is not to strengthen our knowledge, because it sounds as if Srila Prabhupada's knowledge is not enough, and therefore we need previous acharyas' knowledge to strengthen our knowledge. That is wrong. So that's the thing that we should avoid. When we approach it with that mentality, then we approach it with a wrong idea. So we should read Prabhupada's books, and for specific arguments, sometimes, the Sandarbhas. In fact, Prabhupada also wanted his disciples to read the Sandarbhas, to do Shat Sandarbhas and like that. So he did mention a few times Chaitanya Bhagavat and all this. So of course, for knowing what is there, we can always read. But we should always understand that the knowledge that we get from Srila Prabhupada's books is the basis on which we will be able to understand those other books, even if we read them. So especially when they said Bahushastre Bahuvakya Chitta Brahma Hoy, this Bahushastre Bahuvakya means different kinds of explanation for the same thing, or different kinds of interpretations is what we should avoid. So usually acharyas are, sometimes they do have differences of opinion, but mostly it's the same. But even when there are differences of opinion, and that's where, being not very advanced, we do not know how to take it. We do not know how to approach them. Madhvacharya and even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they showed us a way how to harmonize the two seemingly contradictory opinions of two different acharyas in the same parampara, how they can be reconciled. So such thing, if we are inexperienced and if we do not know how acharyas actually treat other acharyas and their works, and if we don't know, if we have not sufficiently read Prabhupada's purport, many times in Prabhupada's purports you will find such things, such incidents where there are different readings of the same verse, or there are different explanations given by different acharyas. So in those circumstances, if we have not read Prabhupada's books sufficiently, then we will not be aware of such differences of opinion. And it's actually not a difference of opinion, but seemingly different opinions. Okay, let's put it that way. And because we're not experienced, so we may have an idea very different to how an acharya would want us to see it. We will think that, okay, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said in one way, Jiva Goswami said in one way, Prabhupada said in another way, so we should follow Prabhupada, so we should reject Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we should reject Jiva Goswami, or we should accept Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Jiva Goswami and reject Prabhupada. So this is what happens when we do not know how to approach. But if we always, in fact, our reading of those books will be clarified if we unflinchingly accept what Srila Prabhupada says. And then that should never shake, because we can only understand anything, especially with Shastra, by this way. Upanishad. Yasya deve parabhaktir yatha deve tatha gurau tasyaite kathita hyartha prakashante mahatmanah. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. So unless we have implicit faith in the Guru, Srila Prabhupada, we cannot have all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. And I'll give you an example. the moon landing. So Prabhupada said the moon is farther than the sun. So if they have to go to the moon, they have to pass the sun first. And then we have, Prabhupada said they never landed on the moon. And then we have now Surya Siddhanta, which says that the moon is actually nearer than the sun. Bhagavatam clearly says moon is farther than the sun. And Prabhupada also was pushing the Bhagavatam point of view, Bhagavatam description. But Surya Siddhanta says the opposite. And you have, I have actually read the Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's commentary on Surya Siddhanta in Bengali, where he actually explained that, eclipse is caused by the moon's shadow on the earth. That is a solar eclipse. And the lunar eclipse is where the earth's shadow falls on the moon. So this is what modern science understanding is. And Purana's understanding is different. Rahu, Ketu and all these things. So how to understand this? Contradiction. Puranas and Siddhanta are telling different things. Now, do we accept one thing and reject the other? Accept the Puranas and reject the Surya Siddhanta, or accept Surya Siddhanta, reject the Puranas? No, we cannot reject neither. We cannot reject either of them. And Prabhupada said moon is farther than the sun, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his commentary to Surya Siddhanta said moon is nearer than the sun. So whom should we accept now? If we accept Prabhupada, then we reject Bhaktisiddhanta? Is that not an offense? And if we accept Bhaktisiddhanta and reject Prabhupada, is that not an offense then? So what to do in these situations? So this was my main concern when I was actually studying this whole topic of Chandrayaan mission and the whole cosmology and everything. My point was this, that I was not too interested in where the planets were situated, because it wouldn't make a single change in my life, because we still have to follow these things. But it does make a change in another way, because then when people will start to lose faith in Vedic scriptures. Hey, how can Bhagavatam say like this, and then Surya Siddhanta say like this, and then modern astronomy is saying what Surya Siddhanta is saying? So I think Surya Siddhanta is correct, Puranas are wrong. So these arguments will undoubtedly come, because if we're going to challenge the scientists and everything, we better have our knowledge together. We can't have a stupid argument and go there and then be fooled, and then show ourselves as fools there, right? We should know what we're talking about. And if we want these scientific arguments to be a way to invite or attract people to our movement, we should not look like fools. So how then will people have faith in our Vedic scriptures is what my concern was. And for that reason, I was praying to Prabhupada, actually, honestly. I was praying to Prabhupada, please give some direction. And then by Prabhupada's arrangement, I was introduced to all the different devotees' works, like Sadaputta Prabhu's and all this. Of course, they were already there, but I wasn't too interested. At one point, I was interested. I was like, wow, this is good. But it was from my tiny intelligence, I was trying to understand the whole thing. And after some time, I just left it. You know what? Just let it go. What is there? How does it change my life anyway? I'll just follow Krishna consciousness and I'll go back. That's it. Whether the moon is here or there, it doesn't make a difference. I don't want to go to the moon. I want to go to Vaikuntha, so I don't want to be bothered. So anyway, all places are places of misery. In this way, I just consoled myself and left the topic. That was way back 10 years ago, 2013, 2014. I left the topic. I wasn't too interested anymore, because anyway, I was thinking I don't have any tools or means or any framework to even approach the problem. Like, okay, if there is a big complex thing and I can't understand it, where is the instrument and where is the method by which I can understand these things? So anyway, I don't have anything at my command, so let's just leave it. I was thinking like that. So, but now this Chandrayaan thing happened, and everybody's celebrating, and they landed somewhere, right? So where did they land? And then if they landed on the moon, then our Shastras say, moon's description is very different. Chandradev is there, the god of the moon planet. And then there is Somarasa, which is very famous. Everywhere the Somarasa is mentioned in our Vedas. And where is the Somarasa? The beverage on the, what to speak of beverage, There is no water, there is no air also on the moon. So what is going on now? And if they say, okay, they are celebrating, we have reached the moon, then what about these Vedic lines? Will they just be relegated to be some mythical descriptions, mythological descriptions, some fables, some stories, or some folklore? Is that all it is? So what is the so that propelled my inquiry again into this topic. So now we have a much better understanding, and that better understanding came only because of this, that whatever is stated in the Bhagavatam should never be considered false. Bhagavatam is perfect, and yet what we see corresponds to what Surya Siddhanta says, like the moon is nearer than the sun, or that's how the modern understanding is also. So how to reconcile? So then we are introduced to this great plot of illusion of the Lord, that we see in one way, and the other beings and the devatas, they see the world as in a different way. And then it opens up an enormous amount of, an incredible amount of information about how massive the illusion of the Lord really is. So when we do not give up on the words of the spiritual master, then we are introduced to the real wonder of Krishna and the real greatness of Krishna. But if we give up saying that, yeah, you know what, this is not making sense to me, I think this one makes sense, I think the modern science is right, at least in this aspect. And therefore, some devotees come to this conclusion, yeah, Prabhupada was not geographically right, he was not cosmologically right, but spiritually he was right. But in the material details, he may not be right. In culturally, he was not so right because he says women are less than men. That's because he's coming from Bengal in India, which was in the early 20th century, and that formulated his opinions. And because of that, he says things like that. So those things you can kind of not take him so seriously, but spiritual life you have to take him so. This is the very, very dangerous conclusions that some devotees are coming to. This is rascaldom nonsense. So we should avoid that completely. Prabhupada is always right. Okay? If we start from that, then whatever we may read, even if it's previous acharyas, we should be very, very careful. I would rather finish Prabhupada's books a few times over before I even try to approach those other books. Because I should have a very thorough understanding. Because honestly, I may have read Prabhupada's books. I don't understand many aspects. When I reread, oh wow, this is because I read, for example, I'm not bragging, but I have read every single book of Prabhupada once, and some books more than once, thrice, 4 times, like that. But honestly, you show me a verse, I would have never remembered that. So how much do we retain? How much do we really understand? I read the whole fifth canto, the cosmology and everything. Did I really understand? Not really. I read it. Yeah, it was beautiful. Wow, that's beautiful. Okay, on to the next one. That's it. There's no understanding. And I don't say that I do understand now. I don't understand. But I understand that there is far more to be understood than our mind is capable of. So that, what is it? Exalted nature of Krishna's illusion, which prevents us from understanding the full picture, is what we're exposed to. Because both are true, Purana and the Siddhanta, Surya Siddhanta. So how can both contradictory things be true at the same time? So it is possible. So similarly, when some acharyas have different opinions, there should be a reconciliation between the two, that both are harmonized. And an acharya can see that. Sometimes we may not be able to see that. I've given examples of this in my previous classes. I don't want to repeat myself. Um, there is this, what is that? I think 11.26, if I'm not wrong. Or is it 11.97? 11.79. Which one? Many gurus. Let's go to 11.26. I think I'm right. So these topics I want to make videos on, even Chandrayaan mission as well. You see, this verse 11-6 says, Bhajanti ye yatha. Oh, sorry. I'm used to this. I have to turn this off. Okay. 11-6. Bhajanti ye yatha devan deva api tathaivataan chayeva karma shachivaha sadhavo deenavatsala. Those who worship the demigods receive reciprocation from the demigods in a way just corresponding to the offering. The demigods are attendants of karma like a person's shadow, but the sadhus are actually merciful to the fallen. That means here the verse is saying that the sadhus, the devotees, are greater than the demigods because they're actually merciful to the fallen. Whereas the devatas only give, according to your worship, they will give that much. They will not give more than that, or they will not give spiritual knowledge, nothing. Whereas sadhus, even though you may go against them, they are titikshavaha and karunikaha. They are tolerant and merciful at the same time. They will actually are merciful to the fallen. So sadhus are greater than demigods. That's the point. Now here there is a contradiction. Seeming contradiction. Let's bring that out. Madhvacharya has quoted from the Uddhama Samhita. सुखमिच्छन्ति भूतानां प्रायो दुःखासह नृणां तथापि तेभ्यः प्रवरात् देवा एव हरेः प्रिया. Rishis, here sadhus or rishis, want happiness for all beings and are almost always incapable of tolerating the unhappiness of men. Okay. Nevertheless, the demigods are superior because they are very dear to Lord Hari. Here it looks like devatas are higher than rishis or sadhus who are, you know, who want happiness for all beings and incapable of tolerating the happiness of others. That means it's a very good quality, right? That means they cannot see others unhappy. But here, oh, devatas are superior because they're very dear to Hari. So this is contradictory. But although Srila Madhvacharya has placed the demigods in a higher position than the merciful rishis, Srila Jiva Goswami has stated, Sadhavastuna karmanugataha. The sadhus are actually better than the demigods because the sadhus are merciful regardless of the pious and or impious acts of the conditioned souls. This apparent disagreement between Madhvacharya and Jiva Goswami is resolved by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who points out that in the statement by Srila Madhvacharya, the word rishi or sage indicates the so-called sadhus or saintly persons among the karmis and jnanis. Ordinary fruitive workers and speculative philosophers certainly consider themselves to be at the summit of pious morality and altruism. However, since they are ignorant of the supreme position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they cannot be considered equal to the demigods, who are all devotees of the Lord and aware that all living beings are eternal servants of the Lord. Even such demigods, however, cannot be compared to the pure devotees such as Narada. Such pure devotees are empowered to award the highest perfection of life to both pious and impious living beings who have only to follow the orders of such pure devotees. So you see, Bhagavad saying one thing, Madhvacharya saying another thing, Jiva Goswami saying again what the Bhagavatam is saying. So there's an apparent disagreement between Vyasadeva and Madhvacharya, and now, Jiva Goswami. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur resolved. If not for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, we will be like, oh, they're having a different opinion, they're fighting among themselves. So this is wrong, and we will come into offense to both to Madhvacharya and Jiva Goswami. Because Madhvacharya would have meant what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said. And if we think in a different way, oh, Madhvacharya is saying demigods are more than sadhus, then there will be confusion. Therefore, we need the Acharya to clear up these things. And Srila Prabhupada offers us the distilled form of knowledge gathered from the entire Sampradaya, all the previous Acharyas he gives us. Because he has distilled it, some of the details may be, like Bhagavad, Chaitanya Bhagavat has more details of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. We can, of course, read them. But we should see everything through Prabhupada's teachings. So, the method I would take is I would read Prabhupada's books first, a few times over, and then try to explore other things. Of course, I do have other books. I do refer to them sometimes. For example, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, so and so verse says this. So I want to go to the Sanskrit of that verse and see. So I have Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Sanskrit verses also. That version I have. So I may just for references I may see. But studying side by side with Prabhupada's books and that one, that I may do sometime later. Much later maybe. So For reference sake, I have kept them, and in the future I may read them. But having first of all having some firm grasp of Prabhupada's books to an extent at least, which I don't seem to have at the moment. Very, I don't have a very comprehensive understanding of Prabhupada's books because I have not studied in a structured way. Okay, philosophy here and there we know, yeah. But specific arguments against specific positions, specific topics, and all the different references from the purports, what Prabhupada said here and there, and about everything, all those consolidating all of that, that kind of study. And also, not only that, even the complete flow is not very clear in my head because I did not study in that way. I just read it. So, like which chapter covers what topics, and then what is the flow of the chapters, what is the flow of each of the prayers, and what are the prayers are. So there's so much study that can be done from Prabhupada's books, which is I have not done at all. So I would want to first read that and study that, and then have some understanding, proper understanding, and then read some of the previous Acharya's works, keeping Prabhupada's thing as the base always. And if something contradicts, something is like, I should not immediately reject one or the other. No, it's not that. There is some reconciliation which Acharyas know how to do, and if Prabhupada reveals, if we always stick to what Prabhupada said, then Prabhupada will reveal how to understand those things. So we should never lose faith in the Guru. So it is never to strengthen our knowledge that what we have received from Prabhupada, but to just add more context to that, more details. That's all. But the essence of everything Prabhupada has already distilled for us. There's nothing beyond his books that is actually needed for our spiritual advancement. But sometimes, some of the arguments, sometimes we have to know something. There are many examples in which we face this, like Raghuvamsha. One verse was quoted by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and it was not immediately clear from reading that verse in the Madhyalila, 10th chapter. It comes, and that is actually included in our IA 77 paper as well. So that verse of Raghuvamsha, it is written by Kalidas, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya quoted it, and that verse made its way into Caitanya Charitamrita. So now that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has quoted the Kalidas's work, Raghuvamsha, so that Raghuvamsha is now a bona fide scripture. Yeah? It can be considered a bona fide scripture because it was quoted by authoritative sources. So then I did not understand the context of the verse. And then I actually went and searched on Google for the text of that verse. And fortunately, there is a text online translation of that. Then I went to the previous and the next verses. Then I got the context. Wow, then it made so much sense. And it added weight to the argument. I don't want to go into all those details now because it will take too long. But so for referencing sake, we sometimes have to do that to get a little more context so that we understand the thing more clearly sometimes. So for those things we can approach, but we should never approach losing our faith on Prabhupada. So I think for many devotees who are in this session, I doubt if anybody has actually finished all of Prabhupada's book, reading Prabhupada's books. So there is no need to go to other books now. Read Prabhupada's books thoroughly first, and then you may of course go to the other books also later on. But read Prabhupada's books and have complete understanding first. That is my suggestion to anyone. Not making many disciples. Okay, this one we've already. I mean to say, I'm not going to play my attention completely, but some nice books are there that I'd like to read, so like Chaitanya Bhagavat or Brahmana and Vaishnava. Yes, Brahmana and Vaishnava I also read. And sometimes it is necessary because it is a clear argument that many Smarthas they will have, and we should know our position, and it is important to read such books as well. So yeah, so you definitely can read this, but an extensive study of some big scripture is not necessary at this point. Read Prabhupada's books first, and then you can always go to those things. Other side, yes. Now ISKCON bogus guru making too many disciples, but they cannot liberate not a single one. Yeah, too many disciples, and some of the disciples are not even chanting 16 rounds. Those kind of disciples are also there. And they're not taking shelter of a pure devotee. So this is all bogus. It should be on the order of the spiritual master. As we know, if we do bhakti in this birth and next birth we will do it again, does that mean in same sampradaya? Or it can change? Sorry, the topic is not related to this, but please answer. I don't know how Krishna is going to make arrangement, but somehow or other your bhakti will go forward. Okay, let's not be too concerned with how the arrangements are being made. I mean, Krishna said, "Neha Vikrama Nashosti." It will not be destroyed, and you will continue. How you're going to continue? That Krishna is making the arrangement. If he divulged some of the details, I can tell, but I don't know. I don't know. Prabhupada said, "Don't make me come again." So that means Prabhupada may come again. And even if he comes, how does he come? Like Arjuna came many times, right? Krishna said, "You came many times, I also came." But in different capacities. Vishwamitra came as Vishwamitra Muni, then as the Brahmana negotiating Rukmini and Krishna's marriage, then as Vanamali Ghataka to negotiate the marriage of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in which way he came, in what circumstances, and so I don't know. I don't know in which way Prabhupada will come, even if we have fallen down. And why should I even think of whether I will come back, and why should I be not serious enough and make it back in this life? May not be, may not make it back, but I should think in that way. That I should be as serious as to go back in this life. So I think we should be concerned with what we should be doing as our duty, as our, there is this verse in the Guru Vandana song that we sing every day in the morning, Guru Puja. ಗುರುಮುಖ ಪದ್ಮವಾಕ್ಯ ಚಿತ್ತೆತೆ ಕೊರೆಯ ಐಕ್ಯ ಆರನ ಕೊರಿಹೋ ಮನೆ ಆಶಾ. This is very important. Gurumukha Padmavakya Chitta. Our single pointed attention should be on the instruction of the spiritual master and to execute it. Arna Koriho Mane Asha. We don't need to think of other things. Like how Krishna is going to make arrangement. Doesn't I am nobody to say. Who am I? So if we just follow the instruction of the spiritual master, all success will be there. That much I know. So we should just do that. Ādi 7.130, a bit changed in Russian version about making many disciples. I was confused when I read that, so I came to see the original scan CC. I was like, wow, wow, so opposite. Yeah, this is very dangerous. It's so opposite. So it's a nuanced thing, this whole editing. Some of the edits, there were actually mistakes in the original one. But some of the edits, the kind of edits is quite different. I mean, the whole meaning is opposite. Now, which one is correct? I want to see what Prabhupada actually said, but it makes sense if it is. We should not consider ourselves too advanced, and then now I will have disciples. It is best not to have disciples, so that we stay humble and continue preaching, and that would mean Siksha Gurus. And that's what our movement is actually, not to become Diksha Gurus. Because if I preach to my colleague and I can become a Diksha Guru for that, come on. I mean, how then did the Gaudiya Math big sannyasis were not qualified then? They were preaching, right? So Prabhupada should have said, oh, they also yes should become gurus. No, but he said none of them are qualified. So one has to be a Uttama Adhikari to become a guru, a Diksha Guru. But a Siksha Guru anybody can become. So it flows with the idea that Siksha Guru, I should not be considered myself too much and then too first class devotee. And therefore it's best not to accept disciples so that I stay humble but I still preach. It flows with that. But now here it is said that oh, we should not consider ourselves you know first class devotee, and therefore, oh, because I'm first class devotee I should not accept disciples. I'll just um I should just be like because one comes in the second class platform and then accepts disciples. So Uttamadhikari doesn't accept disciples. So we should not be like that, imitate that, and we should be in the mood of preaching. That is what this is said. But to accept disciples, for the Guru, or what? So that's it's quite an opposite translation, both of them. So that's a genuine concern. But it does flow that we should not become just gurus. We should accept disciples for Prabhupada. Yes, that we should do. Not for myself. Anyway. Oh no. But Vedabase is being manipulated again and again. I wonder how many times they'll make Prabhupada rewrite as this again and again. So, this whole thing about book changes and editing, I want to make a video as well. This is also an important topic. But anyway, I mean, for us, it's very, very clear that we can't become Diksha Gurus. Okay? Prabhupada never authorized that. He appointed, even whatever he says in the purport, actually, both these translations are true in at different contexts. So there is one context where, like the older version, which it says that, oh, one should not become puffed up and think he's a Uttamadhikari. That thinking should be avoided. It is best not to accept disciples at the same time. So to stay ourselves humble, we should do that, but we should preach. Another, this version, that the new version is saying that, oh, I should not be thinking I'm a big Uttamadhikari and not preach. I should be preaching and making disciples, which is also our mission. Because we should not think that, oh, I'm now big devotee, then I don't need to preach. I should be making disciples for Prabhupada. So I can't be away or aloof from the activity of making disciples. Just because I can't have disciples of my own, it doesn't mean I should, just, do some, chanting and, show off like a big devotee. No, I should be involved in the active preaching work, field work of preaching. And I have to be always thinking of how to make disciples for Prabhupada. So both have their context. Either way, the ultimate thing doesn't change, but the way it is said here that disciples for ourselves, that is definitely not the case. So but either way, we can always justify it. We should not accept disciples, but we should also not be aloof from the act of accepting disciples. So that is the thing that we should follow. So either of these versions, they just explain different versions or different aspects of the same activity of preaching, but in our context. But we should be very careful to understand both those aspects. That means to say, we should not accept disciples for ourselves, but we can't be aloof from the activity of accepting disciples or making disciples. Because if we have to expand our movement, we should have disciples of Prabhupada, though, not of myself. They should be initiated. We should get them to the point of initiation. That's the whole point of preaching. So both are correct. But which one Prabhupada meant? Because sometimes what they're doing is they are looking at Prabhupada's audio, and sometimes actually this happened many times. I can point out many examples. That's why I want to make that video. Where in the pre 1977, when Prabhupada was here, physically around, they heard it wrongly because they were not used to Prabhupada's accent and Prabhupada's way of explaining, and even Sanskrit they were not very familiar sometimes, and they heard it wrongly and they actually put wrongly in the book. Later on, it was changed. So those kinds of changes are also there. So those changes had to be done because then it would be otherwise it would be wrong actually. Because Prabhupada meant in one way and then they understood it differently. So those kind of changes are there, and some changes are like unnecessary, and some changes were also necessary where it was not clear the way the editors, because we have to understand actually how the editing process works. So this is why actually I want to make that video, because Prabhupada dictated, but then he did not involve too much in the editing and checking all the copies of the edit and then going through every single. He did not do that. In the beginning, he did that for Bhagavad Gita. I think for the first few chapters. After that, he did not do it because he was translating so many books and he was traveling and everything. So he did not have as much involvement in the editing process at all. And let me tell you, even the first edit, even in the 1972 version of it, heavily edited. Because Prabhupada, when he speaks in a lecture, that is how he would almost speak when he's dictating. But you can't exactly write like how you speak, right? You have to change it and make it in a written way. So that was done heavily in the 1972 version and the 1975 versions of the books. This was done. So editing happened even then. Editing does not mean to change. For example, if I edit a video, I'm not changing anything in the video. I'm presenting it what is, in a way that is consumable for, but I'm not changing anything. I can also edit in a way that to misconstrue or misrepresent what actually happened, and that is a unethical edit. But an edit, the word edit has been used to make it. It's not exactly. That's why this is very much misunderstood by many devotees, that they think the 1972 version is never edited. It's unedited version. Don't get that wrong like that. It is edited as well. And Hayagriva, he was in that panel, and he edited, in fact, unethically also sometimes. Like Easy Journey to Other Planets, he removed a few pages because he did not agree with what Prabhupada was saying. That's a very, very dangerous edit. But other edits, which from spoken way of English to written way of English, that was done. And sometimes in the beginning, they consulted Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, okay, that's all right, that's all right. In that way, then after that, he did not involve too much. And then he got the books released, and in that way they came out. So later on, when reading in the lecture itself, Prabhupada said that should not be there. Why it is cattle raising? It should be cow protection. So in that way, and then in the fourth chapter, in the original 1972 version, you will find the Blessed Lord said. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Blessed Lord said. That is a very Christian way of saying it. And Hayagriva actually asked Prabhupada, apparently, shall we do this? Shall we put Blessed Lord, because then it will be easy for people to understand what it is. Prabhupada agreed, but when it came out and Prabhupada, when the classes, when it was being read, Blessed Lord, why? What is this Blessed Lord thing? Put it back, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because that was originally what Prabhupada said. And then Prabhupada also agreed to Blessed Lord when Hayagriva said, but he did not think too much about it, and he just said, yeah, okay. But then when he saw it after that, he said, no, this doesn't sound right, change it. And then in 1975 version of Bhagavad Gita, which is not printed nowadays, only 1972 is printed, it was changed to Supreme Personality of Godhead said. So that is more accurate than Blessed Lord, which is in 1972 version. So in this way, there are many edits, and 1983 version has many of the corrections that needed to be done in the 72 and 75 versions. So some of those changes are necessary actually. But this one, now this 7.130, it's looking quite opposite, right? But actually both of them can be reconciled because both of them are true in their own right. But which one Prabhupada wanted to mean is what we need to understand. Because if we quote one thing, it will have one meaning. If you quote another thing, another meaning. Both can be justified. Both can be justified. It's not that one is right and another is not. But to say that, oh, I'm a pure devotee, therefore I should not accept disciples, that is wrong. And therefore I should accept disciples. That is wrong. But I should not be aloof from the activity of accepting disciples. I should be heavily invested in the preaching work to make disciples for Prabhupada, yes. That is our position. As Diksha Guru, that's the duty, in fact. He should make disciples for the Diksha Guru. Make them qualified for becoming disciples. So it's a more nuanced subject. So I will talk to Prabhu as well about this change because I was not aware of this change. So it's interesting. So we should. So I will address all this in that video as well, which I will release soon about this book changes issue. Um, More strong preaching going to happen soon, Haribol. Yeah, that has to happen. Okay, does that mean when only Guru order you become Diksha Guru? What if the previous Guru is more to order? I don't know what you're saying. Yeah, if the Guru orders you to become Diksha Guru, yes, you must become Diksha Guru. But Guru did not order Guru, or Guru ordered another system of Ritvik system. Then we should follow that. Akarsh Kinagi. Prabhu, it is said that in higher planets, people are mainly engaged in self realization and mostly are in the mode of goodness. Does it mean Krishna consciousness is very common in higher planetary system? Okay, so in the Svargaloka, yes, it is very common. Everybody is Krishna conscious, more or less. But in the heavenly planets, Svargaloka, there is extraordinary amounts of sense pleasure, which is a great distracting factor as well. They don't exactly forget Krishna, but they are also very much, indulge. They very much indulge in um, sense enjoyment. But in higher planets than that, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapoloka, Satyaloka, they are not like that. They are extremely serious about spiritual life. But even then, they may not be exactly sure about Krishna. That's why there was this argument in Janaloka, who is supreme. And that's why Bhrigumuni actually did that test. Offended Brahma by mind, offended Shiva by words, and offended Vishnu by body. So in that way, he, kind of ascertained who is the supreme. Vishnu is the supreme. So they are not. In fact, when Shukadeva Goswami is speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, sages from all over the universe came, and some of them were impersonalists there. That is also mentioned in the Bhagavatam. So there is these kind of things are there. But yeah, predominantly in the mode of goodness. What is it? Can you explain Nam Aparadhas? Come on, that's not the topic of this verse. So I'm sorry, I can't explain it in this session. This is not proper. So whole thing you can okay if you really want to see, you can go to Chaitanya Charitamrita Ādi chapter 8 text 24. Chaitanya Charitamrita Ādi chapter 8 text 24. Ādi 8:24. You go and see. Online prabhupadbooks.com you can go and see. Chaitanya Charitamrita Ādi 8:24. Okay. It's common sense only by speculative gyan we cannot cross or understand Krishna's Maya. Yes, we cannot understand Krishna's Maya by speculative knowledge, but we should not lose faith in our because our eyes are saying one thing and our this thing, and nobody will accept the Vedas if it is not properly presented. Why is there difference in the way Puranas are describing the universe and then the Vedas are, the modern science is describing the universe? Why is there a difference? We should be able to explain why there is a difference. So we should understand how the illusion, how massive the illusion is, and different way to perceive the whole problem, the whole puzzle. We should know how to articulate our arguments. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur once said we can discuss more 30 days one on one shloka of Bhagavatam, isn't it massive? And he himself gave it in one lecture, like about 28 days in one shloka. Yeah, he gave 3 months on the first verse of Bhagavatam. Now it's clear, thank you. Prabhupada's books are our main priority, no doubt. Others I would like to read only after finishing Prabhupada's books. I read them as you advised. Next time I'm going to study thorough. Prabhu, I feel that our inexperience could arise contradictions in our perception. I think it's rightly said to read these books very scrutinizingly. Under authorized person's directions. Yes. This book changes. Dimitri is saying this book changes is a hot topic. We are tired to argue with Russian fanatics concerning that, so we translated ISKM paper on this issue and shared with them. They just kept silent and left us finally. Yeah, actually, I want to make a video on this with actual side by side, differences, and then explaining actually how it is. Um, and yeah, of course, even that PDF ISCAM paper is very thorough itself. We also were tired of arguing with fanatics, and then that's why we also wrote that. Yes, we lost two Finnish IRM devotees due to this book change topic. The video is needed. Yes, so we will produce that very soon. All right, so we will stop it here. What is this? Dimitri is saying Russian ISKCON has made such a video, but they basically protected the changes, very biased. Yeah. Recently, just 2 days ago, I was watching one 2.5 hour video. I watched the entire thing by one ISKCON devotee who is um, review panel. What is that? Review panel. Um, book changes review panel, something like this. One review panel they have. They have. This devotee is also on that board, and he explained the whole thing about this book changes thing. Some of the things I can actually, most of the things I can agree with. Um, he also accepts that some of the changes are not ethical. That's quite wrong. So he presented a very balanced perspective, and they're actually revising. I mean, they're reviewing each and every change that ever was done. So they are, in fact, he said that in the future they will release a critical edition of the book. A critical edition means it's a critical edit. That means from what change to what change it was done and what was the reason and everything stating that. And this is not for public circulation but for devotees to understand if they want to study the topic, a transparency of what changes were done and for what reason, what is the reasoning behind those changes. So that would be a very useful resource to have for devotees, because these books have to last for 10,000 years. So they cannot be just change the name, just simply change like this and like that. So of course, one or two arguments, a few of them I could not agree really. If not exactly arguments, but how to. I mean, on the subject of editing, he made sense. Okay, what was wrong in original editions, what Prabhupada wanted changed, those things have to change. And he showed examples also, and of course they made change and they made sense. Couple of points, it's a bit not acceptable. So I watched that only to have more understanding of what they say, or at least those who are sitting on the review panel, with what mentality they are approaching the issue. I wanted to see, because it is very essential for us that these books should not misrepresent Prabhupada's teachings, and exactly what Prabhupada wanted to say, it should be said, and the book should say. So I wanted to know what they think when they edit, when they or approach these edits, evaluate these edits, whether they should be brought back to the original, or yes, okay, Prabhupada actually wanted this, so okay, keep the changed one because that's what Prabhupada wanted. Okay, his original manuscript said this, here's original transcripts said this way, and the way Prabhupada said it, we have to understand how Prabhupada talks also. In the beginning, there may be some mistakes in that. Okay, then it is justified or it is not justified. So they're approaching each and every change, and they're now only in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So like that, every single change they will debate. They will like discuss among themselves all the possible things and everything. So they're doing like that. So let's see how that works out. But yeah, so this is the thing that's going on. So we have to make a video. His stance was not very strong. That was what I was not. It was not acceptable to me. Because one devotee asked the question after his whole presentation. One devotee asked the question, we are distributing books, and but then some devotees asked whether they can also join us in distributing books. They were coming from overseas, and then They saw our books, it was not the original 1972 version, and then say, oh, we rather not distribute these books. Then they were left. What should we tell them? She asked like this. So he told that, you just say that, the BBT and the edit review panel, they are actually studying this. As an institution, this is the version that we would distribute, this 1983 version, the edited version. So the panel is reviewing, and let's say what they say, and accordingly we will. It's an institutional decision, so let the institution decide, and we will just follow that. That's a very, I don't know what kind of reply is that. I wouldn't agree with that reply. I would say in this way that you mean to say those changes or absence of them. First of all, I would explain the whole thing. Like, do you think that the 1972 has no mistakes? There were. And Prabhupada did not authorize those mistakes. Just because it was published, it was not that Prabhupada authorized those mistakes. He did not. The thing we have to understand is, usually an author will go through, it happens like this, that he writes, and then the editor will see, okay, then he will check everything, and then fact checks and everything, okay, everything's right and all right. Then he does all the thing, puts together sentence formation, grammar, all this he will clean up, and then makes a first draft, sends it back to the author goes through everything again and see if anything is added, or everything is kind of all right or not, if it is true to what the author has done, or did he change something, introduce his own ideas into it. So he will see through everything and read everything, and then after that he goes back to the, what is it called, form editor, something. In that second editor, his role is only to check the grammatical errors or anything, and then after that again it goes back to the author, and again he will review the whole text again, and then if he does some mistake somewhere, then like maybe diacritics of a particular word are not there, then he has to go back and no, you have to put back this diacritic. So the author has to be very involved in the whole production of the book, and finally after that, then he will make the changes and send it for publishing. That's the rigorous process it goes through for any book publishing. That did not happen when Prabhupada was publishing these books. So Prabhupada was not scrutinizingly examining every single page of every single, word of a paragraph and of a page of every single book. No, he was not doing that. So there were so many errors that were introduced even in the 1972 version, and that those had to be corrected. But in any case, if you think that Prabhupada's those changes were made and they were unethical, or they changed the meaning or whatever, did they really change that much meaning? Actually, they did not. Sometimes I wouldn't agree to those changes, because like, why are you changing it? It was already clear. Like, why? So, and sometimes, so even if that is done, and it is wrong to do that unnecessarily, but the meaning did not change. So even if we say all the meaning of the 1% or less than 1% of the entire text, the meaning is slightly here and there, hardly changed. But even then, even if it is changed, say for example 0.5% of the entire text is somewhat slightly different, little bit different meaning it is giving, will that be so powerful as to completely eclipse the entire Prabhupada's, the rest 99.5% of Prabhupada's original words that are still there in the edited books? They are now rendered completely important because of the 0.5% introduction of the changed words. Is Prabhupada so important that he cannot anymore convey the meaning of Krishna consciousness through that book anymore? No. So by saying that, we are saying that Prabhupada is so powerless that these 0.1 or 5% of the changes are extremely powerful. They can completely undo whatever Prabhupada has done. Really? Prabhupada is so weak. Really? So what faith do you have in Prabhupada, that means? So I would rather not distribute those books. That is a stupid thing to say. So we should say like that. That is the reply we should give. And anyway, I do accept some of the things that are actually mentioned in the 1983 version. Like the extra references or Shastric references, slokas were quoted, the Gita Mahatmya was quoted, and the index of verses quoted in the purports is mentioned at the end. Absolutely for it. So these things have to be properly explained in one video together. They bring the argument that with the milk and the snake, even 1% changes makes the book polluted, they say. Oh, really? Then how come I also read all the changed books and I still became devotee? How come? How come? And those who are reading original books, they're still in ISKCON. How come? Accepting those gurus. How come? That's not the thing. There is not one person change makes the book polluted. Really? This is nonsense. If we, they don't even know what is pollution actually. These people are so fanatic. Pollution means the message is lost. I mean, it gives a different thing. Like, when you hear these professional reciters of Bhagavatam in India, they'll, recite, Raslila, this and that and this and that. Array, you don't have a proper understanding of Krishna and Radharani or Gopis, nothing you will have. And that is pollution. You hear from about Krishnas from other sources, like they'll change here and there and say something which is off a little bit. Those things. Here, there's nothing changing. You will still get the full message of Krishna consciousness. So, even with today's verse 7.130, both can be accepted in their own ways, but of course, we have to know which one Prabhupada wanted to say. That we have to know. All the saints in India except Gaudiya. I don't know what you're wanting to say. Um, okay, so anyway, we will stop it here. Thank you very much. Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Okay. Okay. I always answer them why people become devotees after reading change books, and those who read only original hardly can be called devotees. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Oh, he's saying consider Lord Shiva and Narayana equal. Hey, you find somewhere else to speak whatever you want to say. Here, this is not the topic. And yeah, we will not say Lord Shiva and Narayana equal because they are not equal. Okay? They are not equal. You show me the verse that they're equal. I will show you the verse that they're not equal. Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahmarudrada Devate Samatveneva Viksheta Sa Pashandi Bhavid Dhruvam. So these verses are there, and don't come around with this nonsense argument. You just first read books, okay? Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, Matta Paradaram Nanya. There is nobody equal to me. Not even Lord Shiva, not Brahma. Even they are not equal to me. Shiva is very powerful, extremely powerful. He is almost as powerful as Vishnu, but he is not equal to Vishnu. Okay? And that's why Shiva always meditates on Vishnu. He is always meditating pose. He is meditating on Vishnu. Vishnu, Krishna, he is just playing. That's it. Yeah, he is supreme. And there's so many verses, too many verses are there. That's not the topic of today's verse. Don't come and simply start an argument for no reason. Go and read Bhagavad Gita first. Okay? But you have not read Bhagavad Gita. Obviously, you have not read. Because if you really read, you will understand that Krishna is the supreme and nobody else. Okay? Thank you very much. And Shiva himself says, Aradhananam Sarvesham Vishnu Aradhanam Param. For all worship, Lord Vishnu worship is the highest. Lord Shiva is saying, what is your problem? Anyway, any Vaishnava they don't accept. Not only Gaudiya, Ramanujacharya doesn't accept, Nimbarkacharya doesn't accept, Vishnu Swami doesn't accept. Any Vaishnava Acharya doesn't accept that Vishnu and Shiva are saying. Not even Lord Shiva accepts. He himself is a Vaishnava. Okay? Hare Krishna.